I'm a lowlife, but now people call me the king. Tearing it up with every lyric that I bring to the table. Because I'm willing and able. I'm in more homes than Comcast cable. I got the skill that'll rattle your brain. I'm a threat like Saddam Hussein. Everybody know my name. Joe Habib's a top soldier. Kid, they should have told you. You really need to pack a lunch. My words hit hard just like a Tyson punch. So give me a chance. I bet you I can make you dance. Show me your girl. I bet you I get in her pants. I'm breaking egos and money is what I'm stacking. Joe Habib on the mic. You know I'm down for action. Shout out to Make Beats Sir and the Beat Smith and the whole Rope-A-Dope radio crew. Yeah.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Interesting topic today. We're going to talk about the scoring system in boxing and should it be changed. The biggest criticism of the sport is when you're using the 10-point must system and you're applying it round by round, you run into an issue sometimes where a fighter may win a round narrowly and his opponent may win a round decisively, but they are both scored 10-9. And I know some people say, and have put this out there, where a more decisive round should be scored 10-8, right? As opposed to 10-9. And there's nothing in the rules that says a boxing judge can't do that. Now, Dave Moretti obviously had that controversial round in round 10. We know that, and no one agrees with that. I don't think anybody agrees with that round. But if you go back to the Tank Davis-Ryan Garcia fight, he scored that round 10-10 in a round in which Tank Davis knocked down Ryan Garcia. So that would mean he felt as though Ryan Garcia was winning that round so decisively, right? So decisively that he had Ryan up in that round 10-8. And Tank had to score a knockdown just to even the round out, right? So if you want to encourage judges to score decisive rounds 10-8, right? Which you can most certainly do. And they most certainly have the right to do that, right? It's still not going to take away the subjectivity, because I just showed you an example where, in that round 2, it was up until the point when Dave Moretti was watching that fight, he had Ryan Garcia up 10-8 because he thought that was such a dominant round. So he thought it was, in his eyes, so dominant that at that particular time before that knockdown occurred, Ryan was winning that round 10-8, right? And then Tank had to score that knockdown in his eyes to even it out, right? But everyone else, the majority of people, the other two judges scored that round 10. They scored it 10-8, I believe, for Tank Davis, right? Let me just double check that so I don't get the scoring wrong here. But I believe the other two judges, if I'm not mistaken, scored that round 10-8 for Tank Davis. But if they thought that Ryan was winning the round, then they could have scored it 10-9. But scoring at 10-8, scoring at 10-10 seems like a stretch to most people. But let's just double check that what the other two judges scored that round for. How they scored that round. Let's double check it. Okay, so yeah, the other two judges, I apologize, did score that round 10-9 for Tank. So once again, they did think Ryan was winning that round. And that the knockdown made it a 10-9 round instead of a 10-8 round. So they did give Tank Davis the extra point for the knockdown, but they did not give him the extra point for winning the round. So I stand corrected. I apologize. Just wanted to double check that because I wasn't sure. So two of the judges scored at 10-9, while Dave Moretti scored it 10-10. So once again, you still, as a judge, have the ability to score a decisive round 10-8 for a particular fighter. You still have the ability, if someone scores a knockdown in the round, even though you give them the point for the knockdown, you don't have to give them the extra point along with that for winning the round. So two judges had it 10-9, while the other judge, Dave Moretti, had it 10-10. And when you look at on the fan scorecard, they scored it 10. They had it 10-8. And when you look at the professional officials, so what BoxRec has is they have fans. There's 205 fans that scored that fight and submitted their scorecards, and everyone scored it 10-8. Of the professional judges, they have a panel of professional judges that score that fight as well. And the majority of the professional judges scored it 10-8. So judges are within their rights to give decisive rounds to a fighter 10-8, right? So they could do that. So there's nothing in the scoring system that says they can't do that. And they did that here. All three judges in this round thought Ryan Garcia was winning the round, and Dave Moretti thought he was dominating the round 10-8. The other judges thought that Ryan was winning the round, right? But they gave Davis the round 10-9. So Davis got the extra point for the knockdown, but not the extra point for winning the round. So that's why they had it 10-9, right? So again, like, the system is always going to be open to interpretation based on the judges, right? So there's no rule in the scoring system that says all rounds have to be scored 10-9 regardless if there's a knockdown or not, right? So the judges still have the ability to score decisive rounds 10-8 if they want to, which I gave you an example of, right? Tank Davis didn't get the 10-8 round. He got a 10-9 round because they felt, well, okay, we'll give him the point for the knockdown, right? So they felt that Ryan was winning the round, but they took a point off of Ryan for the knockdown. And since it's a 10-point must system, they gave it 10 to Tank. Now Moretti, for whatever reason, had Ryan winning that round 10-8, right? And he made it even, right? So then he feels as though the knockdown, he gave Tank the point for the knockdown, right? And then he gave him an extra point because he felt the knockdown made Tank kind of even the round out. How he came to that is very bizarre. I've never seen a 10-10 round where one knockdown is scored. Now, I've seen in Sergio Martinez versus Paul Williams when they each had a knockdown. I saw that round scored 10-10 because it's a 10-point must system. And the only time a round could be scored 9-9 is if one fighter wins the round 10-9, but because he committed a foul, a point gets taken away from him. Other than that, you can't score around 9-9. If you feel a round is even, you have to score it 10-10. Unless, and like I said, if a point gets taken away from somebody, then it could become 10-9 if you have a guy winning a round and you have to take a point away because of a foul. So the system still allows for judges to score wide rounds, 10-8 rounds, right? But with that being said, even with that ability present in the scoring, you're still going to have subjectivity. You're still going to have somewhat of a bias because judges are going to have a bias towards particular styles that they prefer, right? They're going to interpret the four criteria differently than maybe you would or I would. It's just like an umpire in baseball. Every umpire interprets the strike zone differently. Some pitchers, if someone's hugging the plate and a pitch is thrown inside, it may be a little bit too inside, but because that batter's hugging the plate, they'll call it a strike because they feel that, okay, the batter's taking away the strike zone from the pitcher, so we're going to punish the batter for that, right? So everyone has their own interpretations. It's like any other sport. You're going to get perceived bad calls regardless. You can call it incompetence. You can call it corruption. I'm not going to get into all that. With Dave Moretti, he has a history of making mistakes. Like that 10-10 round was weird for Tank Davis, right? But the judges, didn't score the traditional 10-8 like I did and like most other scorers did and like other professional judges did, right? They thought Ryan was winning their round. So they only gave Tank that extra point for the knockdown. They didn't give him a 10-8. They didn't give him a point for winning, and they didn't give him a point for the knockdown. So again, the 10-point must system, no one says that decisive rounds can't be scored 10-8, right? But now when you have all this other stuff like who would you rather be, the story of the fight, let's start with the story of the fight because that's bullshit, right? And I'll explain why later in the video why the story of the fight is bullshit. So the story of this fight was Devin's the younger guy. He's the bigger guy. He's perceived to be the stronger guy, right? He was the guy who had a great jab. It was perceived going into this fight that he's a younger guy. He's going to box this fight from the outside. He's not going to take a lot of unnecessary chances, right? And this could be or could have been a pretty boring fight for Devin Haney. He was going to jab and grab and stink his way to a decision. That was the perception going in. That's the story of the fight. And on Loma's end, this is the veteran, right? This is the guy that just came back from Ukraine, right? He's the hero. This is his last chance, right? He's got to put it all on the line. He's got to start fast in this fight, right? This is the story of the fight. This is what you're bringing into the fight before you even start watching it, before you even put that 10-9 or 10-8, whatever you want to do on that scorecard. This is the perceived story of the fight, right? And in my opinion, when you use this unwritten rule and this criteria that's not involved in the scoring at all, right? When you put this added piece of criteria in there, automatically you develop a bias going in because it doesn't play out the way you want it to or expected it to. You try to convince yourself that it is, or because it doesn't, right? So if one person doesn't meet your expectations on what you expect them to do or how you expected them to fight the fight, automatically in your mind, because they didn't fight the fight you thought they were supposed to fight or you wanted them to fight, you're going to punish them and say, well, he fought the other guy's fight. Regardless if he's effective or not with the style he's using, automatically he's not using the style you thought he should have used or you expected him to use. So you're going to take points away from him in your brain. And again, this is my opinion. I'm not saying you did or you didn't. I suspect a lot of you did. Oh, well, Devin Haney's jab was taken away from him. Why do you say that? Well, because he didn't throw a lot of jabs in this fight. Why didn't he throw a lot of jabs in this fight? In my opinion, neither man threw a lot of jabs in this fight. Why? Because I thought that Devin Haney stepped to Vasily Lomachenko, particularly early in this fight, and he wanted to try to make this an up close and personal affair. He wanted to make this an inside fight. And when you have two fighters fighting on the inside, fighting at close quarters, guess what happens? Less jabs are going to be thrown. So if you want to make that argument, oh, well, Devin Haney's jab was taken away, you're more than welcome to use that argument or have that opinion. My opinion was this. I did not expect Devin Haney to fight the way he fought. But just because he didn't fight the way I expected him to fight, just because he didn't fight the way I thought he would fight, just because he's the taller man and he may not have fully used his height, reach, and length and distance and spacing in this fight the way I thought he would do, I'm not going to punish him for not doing what I thought he was going to do or what I normally see him do or what I expected him to do. I still think early in the fight he was having success fighting Lomachenko at Lomachenko's preferred range, or not even preferred range. Lomachenko to me is a mid-range guy. I thought Devin Haney took it deep in the pocket, right? Deep in the pocket. And I thought early he was the one backing Loma up. And again, it's all subjective, right? And when I'm watching the fight, I'm looking at the time that's elapsing in the round. And I'm seeing Devin Haney having success for longer periods of time in those early rounds where Lomachenko would do well, like in the last minute, where I thought Devin Haney was doing pretty good for the first 2 minutes. You know what I'm saying? So I'm looking at the amount of time that's going by. And once again, this is all subjective, right? What I saw, right, could be totally different from what you think you saw or you saw, right? So again, you're never going to take the subjectivity out of this sport, and you're never going to take the bias. Now, again, when you say bias, is it a personal bias or is it a bias geared towards judges favoring specific things, right? Or specific styles. Now, Harold Letterman, may he rest in peace, scored all of those fights for Pacquiao, right? And a big reason why he scored those fights for Pacquiao, in my opinion, and I think he kind of indicated that, was because he felt like Pacquiao was the aggressor in the fights because Marquez was backing up. Now, for me, I don't think Pacquiao was forcing Marquez back, right? I thought Marquez was taking that step back and stepping off to the side, and he was drawing Pacquiao into traps, and he was landing counter punches cleaner. Now, Pacquiao's another guy, in and out guy, flashy combinations, throws punches. A lot of times people think all those punches are landing. I didn't think they all were. I watched the first Pacquiao-Bradley fight. He's throwing all these punches. Oh, with a big left hand. It didn't land, you know. And again, this is what I saw, right? This is what I saw, okay? It's interpretation. So the story of the fight, like I told you, was you had the younger, taller, supposedly fresher guy. He's going to use his jab. He's going to fight on the outside. He's going to fight more of a tactical fight, right? He's going to fight more of a cerebral fight, more of a comprehensive fight. He's going to use a jab. He's going to jab and grab. It's not going to be the prettiest fight. He's going to box his way to a stinker, right? That was the perception, in my opinion, that a lot of people, and even myself, was thinking going in, right? And then, like I said, this is Lomachenko's last chance. He's a huge underdog. He's the guy from Ukraine. So again, this is the story of the fight. But when you're actually watching the fight objectively as a judge, right, these things are not supposed to creep into your head. Just because a guy doesn't fight the way you thought he was going to fight or expected him to fight, and just because a lot of jabs weren't thrown and landed by either fighter in this fight, doesn't mean that Devin Haney could not have won this fight in a different way. And it shocked me seeing Devin Haney have that much success on the inside with that body shot that he was ripping to the body, landing flush, in my opinion. Now, some people say they were partially blocked by the elbow. Again, this is all subjectivity. I don't think that the punches were being blocked. He was landing a short left hook on the inside that was landing clean, in my opinion, and you could see Lomachenko's right eye. And again, I'm not scoring facial damage, but I was watching it saying, wow, this guy's landing a lot of short left hooks on the inside. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting the long punches from the outside, but Devin Haney was scoring with short punches up close. That's what I saw. So that's why the story in the fight did not play out the way the script was written. So now, when you have people like Max Kellerman talk about the story of the fight, automatically, because the script did not play out the way people thought, the fighter who's not following the script gets punished because guess what? He's not following the story of the fight. He's going against the script, right? So automatically we hear things like Lomachenko took Devin Haney's jab away. That's your opinion? You're welcome to it. My opinion is Devin Haney threw less jabs because he was more focused on fighting this fight deep in the pocket. So both fighters did not throw a lot of jabs in this fight. Or you could argue, I correct that. Both fighters did not land a lot of jabs in this fight, right? The punches landed, again, we're not going to live and die by these punch stats, but the punches landed were very close, right? They were very close. And you're scoring them round by round. And where a lot of the activity separated was in rounds 10 and 11, where like Devin Haney only landed 7 punches combined in those 2 rounds. But throughout the fight, all the other rounds, they were close and competitive in terms of landed punches. So now we look at round 12. Oh, well, why are people saying Lomachenko took his foot off the gas? Well, because that's what he said. Well, look how many punches he threw. Okay. I'm going to quote a guy who I respect a lot. You guys may like him, you may not like him. Gabriel Montoya made this great quote one time. He said, "Don't just look at the numbers, look behind the numbers," right? So this is where subjectivity comes into play. So you're looking at that 12th round and you're saying, well, and you don't know this while you're watching it. So if you're going to go back and look and say, oh, well, he threw more, he landed more. Okay, that's fine. I mean, that's great. But while you're watching it, you don't know these things. You're just watching the round. You're not sitting there with a clicker yourself counting the punches, right? These punch stats are just a reference, right? They're not a be-all, end-all. But let's use those punch stats in the 12th round. And I'm hearing things like comparative round and all these fancy words that, once again, are not in the scoring criteria. It's clean, effective punching is number one. So when you look at round 12 and you look at the punches that Lomachenko was throwing, you have to ask yourself, are these punches being thrown with intensity? Right? Is this aggression that you're seeing, or are these just shoe shine, pitter pat punches just being thrown to get Devin Haney to have to react to them and block them? And while doing so, Devin Haney can't throw back, right? So you can have punches designed just to put your opponent on the defense, but these are not significantly scoring blows. There's a lot of pitter pat shots that were blocked, whatever, right? And they were not thrown with intensity. He wasn't turning these shots over. He wasn't stepping in with the intent to really hurt Devin Haney, in my opinion. He was throwing punches basically to keep Devin Haney occupied and force him to keep his hands at home. These were punches basically thrown in a defensive manner. These little pitter pat, shoe shine type punches. These were not punches that were being turned over. These are not punches that were being thrown with full intensity, in my opinion. Right? Whereas in that 12th round, I thought Devin Haney was trying to land punches with bad intentions, right? clean, effective, harder punches, where Lomachenko was throwing less intense punches with the intent just to keep Devin Haney off him. These were punches thrown to keep Devin Haney off him, in my opinion. They were not punches thrown with full intensity in that 12th round. He wasn't turning them over. He wasn't stepping in hard with them. He was doing a lot of shoe shining and a lot of pity patter type shots, a lot of pity pattying, in my opinion. And after the fight, during the post-fight press conference, he said that I gave him the round. Whatever that means, it means. To me, it meant that I did not go into that round with the intent to throw my punches with full intensity. I was just throwing punches to keep this guy off me, right? To keep this guy from coming at me, and that way I could throw these punches quick and bring them back quick, and I'm able to reset and transition back into defense quicker without putting myself in harm's way. Because why? I believe I'm up on the scorecard. So why am I going to step in with hard shots, put myself at risk for being countered? Why am I going to go fight this guy in the trenches when I can just throw these shoe shine pitter pat punches, force him to have to block them, and while he's blocking them, he's not throwing shots back at me, and I can bring my hands back close to my face and already transition back into a defensive posture. So stop looking at just the amount of punches thrown, right? Even sometimes the punches landing. Look at the quality of the punches, right? Clean, effective punches. Oh, well, these punches didn't hurt. I mean, you'll never know. You weren't being hit by them. Oh, well, look at his head snap back. Okay, well, look at the body being, the shuddering of the flesh when Devin Haney's landing those body shots. Look at how Lomachenko was being frozen for that split second. Oh, well, he came back in the second half of the fight. Yeah, but he did look a little bit. Both guys looked a little bit tired in round 12, right? So did Lomachenko punch himself out in round 10 and 11? Did those body shots start having an effect on him? Now, if you want to use the argument that, hey, oh yeah, how did these shots have no effect if Lomachenko came on in the second half of the fight? Once again, that's a part of the criteria that's not used. You can't think that while you're scoring the fight round by round. You're scoring the fight round by round. You can't say to yourself, well, I'm going to subtract points from Devin Haney that I've already given him once the round's over because these punches didn't have an effect. It's called clean and effective, right? Clean and effective. The shots are landing clean. They're landing clean. Because if you want to use that argument, then I guess Floyd Mayweather would never have a win, because look how many punches he landed clean, but guys still were coming at him, still came forward. A lot of guys at welterweight, he wasn't really hurting badly. Now he was getting their attention. But once again, it's hard to distinguish how effective these punches are. Sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's not so obvious. That's always going to be open to interpretation. But one thing that's not always, very hard to distinguish, in my opinion, is if a shot lands cleanly or not. And that's what you're looking at. So that 12th round, I don't have a problem with you giving it to Lomachenko. I don't. I just thought Haney won it. All three judges thought Haney won it. Teddy Atlas thought Haney won it. And that's their opinion. I don't give a fuck what anyone. I'm just telling you what I saw. I thought Lomachenko was throwing a lot of shoe shine punches, a lot of pity pat punches, a lot of punches just being thrown to keep Devin Haney occupied so Devin Haney would not throw back at him. And he was bringing those punches back quickly because he did not want to leave himself open for counter shots. He did not want to trade with Devin Haney. He just wanted to keep Devin Haney on the defensive, right? And he wanted to be able to transition back into a defensive posture quickly in order to not put himself in harm's way. That's what I saw in the 12th round. I thought he coasted. It's my opinion. You don't have to agree with it. That's all I'm saying. So we can change this. I don't even think we have to change the scoring system because, as I said, it does allow for judges to score 10-8 rounds in dominant rounds. And I'm going to show you a fight where the judges did just that. They went against the grain. They didn't apply the 10-point must system, right? They didn't apply the 10-point must system as most people would think they would have in a particular fight. But before I get to that, I forgot one thing. This whole who would you rather be thing, once again, it's another added part of this criteria that is not in the 4 areas of scoring, right? Who would you rather be? Well, in a round where no one's really separating themselves, right? No one's really taking substantial damage, or at least it appears that they're not to the naked eye. Now you're adding another layer to the criteria and you're overcomplicating things. Let's look at a fight like Meldrick Taylor versus Julio Cesar Chavez. In a fight that most people had Meldrick Taylor winning on the cards before he got stopped in that controversial 12th round, right? 10 seconds left. So Meldrick Taylor on my card, and I believe in all 3 of the judges' scorecards, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure if one judge had it for Chavez, but at least 2 of the judges, I believe. I have to go back and look at that too, because my memory is horrible. I apologize, guys. I'm going to be 54 in December. My memory is not what it once was. But needless to say, Meldrick Taylor was up in the fight. But if you're watching that fight, right, and you're looking at Meldrick Taylor physically, he's winning rounds, right? With, in my opinion, because of sheer volume, right? That's not to say Chavez is not landing quality shots. But I thought while watching the fight that the punches that Taylor was landing, although they weren't all hard, they were landing so cleanly, right? They were landing so cleanly, and he was landing so many of them that on the basis of just landing at a high rate with such volume and landing so cleanly, right? I was giving him rounds. But each time Taylor got hit, right? Early, you couldn't really tell. But as the fight wore on, you saw the blood coming out of his mouth. You saw his face start swelling up, right? And Chavez looked like he hadn't even been in a fight. But he was getting hit a lot, but he looked like he hadn't even been in a fight. So in retrospect, hindsight is 2020. You got a guy who's suffering internal damage to his body, spitting up blood, right? Admitting that he was pissing blood for 2 weeks after the fight. So hindsight's 2020. From a physical standpoint, even if that fight is not stopped in the 12th round with 10 seconds left, which I disagree with, but again, it is what it is. He made the decision, Richard Steele. And most people thought it was the wrong decision, but that's neither here nor there. Even if that final bell rang and Taylor wins that fight, he's still never the same again. Chavez ruined Meldrick Taylor in that fight, in my opinion. Most people have said this as well. He was never the same, right? He was never the same because he was busted up internally so badly, right, that he was spitting up blood, pissing blood for weeks after the fight. But with that being said, in my interpretation of using the 10-point must system, he was landing the cleaner punches, particularly more of them than Chavez was. So I thought The amount of clean punches landed were so much more from Taylor as opposed to Chavez. But even still, Chavez is not taking the same amount of damage. And we don't know that fully until the second half of the fight, where we start seeing Taylor starting to swell up. We start seeing him spitting blood. So technically, I would rather beat Chavez from a physical standpoint. But that doesn't mean Taylor is not winning those rounds, right? Chavez is winning the story of the fight, if you want to use Max Kellerman's theory, because he's the guy who is imposing his will on Meldrick Taylor quietly, but still losing rounds. So technically, hindsight 2020, in retrospect, you could say you would want to be Julio Cesar Chavez in that fight, given everything that happened after that fight, because Taylor was ruined. Even if he won that fight, he still was never going to be the same, right? Look at Chavez now and look at Meldrick Taylor now. And I say this with all respect. I love Meldrick Taylor, and my heart goes out to him. But look at Meldrick Taylor now and look at Julio Cesar Chavez now, right? If that fight's not stopped in the record books, Taylor would be the winner. And in my opinion, should have been the winner. In my opinion. But that's my opinion. I accept reality, right? I accept reality. I'm not sure if Richard Steele knew how much time was on the... Again, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. I saw Meldrick Taylor nod yes when he was asked if he was okay. Something about how Meldrick Taylor looked when Richard Steele looked in his eyes. He wasn't happy with it. He stopped the fight. Doesn't stop that fight, Taylor wins. But even with that being said, Taylor is still not the same and never was going to be the same if you look at it. So it doesn't matter who you would rather be, right? Doesn't matter, right? Because there's no way of knowing how much damage, how much pain, what's going on internally in a fighter while you're watching that fight. So the story of the fight and who you would rather be means nothing when you're scoring a fight according to the 10-point must system using the 4 areas of criteria. And by adding those things in, you're misleading fans. You're giving another area which overcomplicates the scoring process when you start adding in these other things. It's already complicated enough with the 4. Now you want to add in the story. You want to add in who you rather be. Then you want to add in close rounds. Go to you're giving too many things to have to think about and focus on a fight. So the story of a fight is for movies. It's for a play, right? This is a sporting event. This isn't the WWE. This isn't a movie. This isn't the Avengers, right? This isn't Shazam, Fury of the Gods. This is a fight, all right? And let's look at it as a fight. So I kind of went off track there, but let's look at a fight, right? Where the interpretation of the 4 areas, the four areas of criteria. Let's look at this fight where the judges did go against the grain here. And I'm going to read you an interesting interview from one of the judges with Larry Merchant, what he said, right? So let's look at this now. So when you look at this Sugar Ray Leonard, Thomas Hearns fight, the second one, and full disclosure, Sugar Ray Leonard is by far and away my favorite fighter of all time. I've loved this man since I was a kid. Since I was probably, 10, 12 years old, I've loved this guy, man. Love this guy. Always loved this guy, right? Full disclosure, as much as I loved Sugar Ray Leonard, as much as I loved him going into the fight, he did not win this fight, in my opinion. I scored this fight 115 to 111 for Thomas Hearns. To this day, Sugar Ray Leonard will tell you, I lost this fight. He openly admitted he lost this fight, right? He openly admitted he lost this fight. So I'm going to break this down, and I'm going to explain to you that even with the scoring system, it's always still going to be open to interpretation when I describe how this fight was scored, right? So I scored the first 4 rounds for Tommy Hearns. 2 of the judges, Dalby Shorley and Jerry Roth, scored the first 3 rounds for Tommy Hearns, and they gave the 4th to Leonard, right? And Judge Tom Kazmarek scored the 4th round for Hearns. He was the only judge. So right then and there, it's plausible that I could give the first 4 rounds to Leonard. To Hearns, excuse me. It's plausible that I can give the first 4 rounds to Hearns because 2 of the judges gave him the first 3, and one of the other judges gave him the 4th, right? And Tommy Kazmarek actually gave Sugar Ray Leonard the first 2, and he gave Tommy Hearns the next 2. So he had it even after 4. The other 2 judges had it 3-1, right? I had it 4-0, right? But it's plausible that I could have given Hearns the first 4 rounds. One judge gave him the 4th. The other two gave it to Leonard. So I could have Hearns up 4-0 after 4. 2 judges had him 3-1, right? Another judge had it 2-2. That's fine. So it's plausible. So let's move on to round 5. Round 5 is a round where Leonard really dominated Tommy Hearns. He was beating him up, buckling him, staggering him in the round. It was a round that, even though a knockdown wasn't scored, because Leonard won that round so dominantly, all 3 judges scored that 10-8 for Leonard without the knockdown. So you can score around 10-8, guys, without a knockdown happening if you feel that the round was dominant. And that round was dominant enough where all 3 judges scored that round 10-8. I, at the time, scored it 10-9. Thought it was dominant, but I just didn't think it was a 10-8 round, in my opinion. But looking back at it, I can see it reminded me of the Taylor Serrano round 5, where that was the closest I've ever come to scoring a 10-8 round without a knockdown. I was close to doing it, but I didn't do it. I didn't pull the trigger, right? Not saying it couldn't have been done. I just didn't do it, right? You can argue I should have, but I didn't. I didn't think it was necessary to do so. So round 6 is another round where I gave, round 5 I gave to Leonard, right? 10-9. All 3 judges gave it to Leonard 10-8 without a knockdown being scored. So now we move over to round 6, which I gave to Leonard, right? Now, Judge Tom Kazmarek gave that round to Leonard, but the other 2 gave it to Hearns. So this is where, you can say, how the subjectivity of scoring comes into play, right? Round 7, I gave to Hearns, right? One judge gave it to Hearns, the other 2 gave it to Leonard, right? Round 8, I gave to Hearns. All 3 judges gave round 8 to Hearns. Round 9, I gave to Leonard. All 3 judges gave round 9 to Leonard. Round 10, I gave to Leonard. All 3 judges gave round 10 to Leonard, right? Now round 11 was a round that Tommy Hearns knocked down Sugar Ray Leonard, right? All 3 judges scored that round 10-8, as I did. Now round 12 is another very controversial round. And I apologize. In round 3, I forgot to tell you guys, Tommy Hearns scored a knockdown. He won that round 10-8 on my card and all 3 judges' scorecard. Round 11, we gave Tommy Hearns, all three judges and myself scored that 10-8. So here's another round, right, which is controversial, right, where two judges scored it 10-9 for Leonard, but Judge Dalby Shirley, right, scored it 10-8 for Leonard because once again, even without a knockdown being scored, he thought it was such a dominating, decisive round. He scored it 10-8, while the other judges scored it 10-9, right? So on my card, I had Hearns winning this fight 115 to 111. Sugar Ray Leonard himself believed he lost the fight, right? But one judge, Tom Kazmarek, he gave Leonard 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He gave Leonard 7 rounds. He had Leonard edging this fight 115 and 113. Judge Dalby Shirley scored this fight 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He had 6 rounds for Leonard. 1, 2, 3, 4. He had this round. He had this fight 6-6, right? He had it a draw though, right? Because he had two 10-8 rounds for Thomas Hearns, right? And he had that 10-8 round for Leonard in the 5th. So he had the fight even. Now, Judge Jerry Roth had this fight for Hearns. He had it 113 to 112, right? And he had this fight actually even as well, right? In rounds. He had it 6-6. So two judges had this fight 6-6, and one judge actually had this fight 7-5 for Leonard, right? So if I'm looking at my card, right, I gave Hearns 7 rounds and I gave Leonard 5. So two judges had it even, and one judge had it 7-5 the other way. So in terms of rounds, right, we're all in the same ballpark here. One judge had it 7-5 for Leonard. The other two had it 6-6. I had it 7-5, right? But because of how the 10-point must system was applied, even though in rounds we all have comparable scorecards, right? I mean, I'm one round off from two of the judges. They had it 6-6. I had it 7-5 for Hearns. Tom Kazmarek had it 7-5 for Leonard. Is that possible? Yeah, I didn't see it that way, but it's not impossible, right? It's not impossible, right? So when we look at the punches landed here, percentage wise, this is very bizarre. Now, total punches landed were 232 for Leonard and 221 for Hearns. Now, Leonard outlanded Hearns, but most people at the end of this fight still thought Hearns won because of the quality of the punches he landed, right? Hearns threw 560 punches, right? Leonard threw 652. So Leonard landed 232, right? Hearns landed 221. Leonard landed 11 more punches. If you look at the power punches landed here, right? In the power punch department, Hearns threw 211 power punches, and landed 100. He landed 47% of his power punches. Leonard landed 152% of his power punches, but he threw 392. So he landed at 39%, right? Hearns landed at 47%, right? But when you look at the jabs, this is where they kind of separate themselves. If you think about it. Now, Hearns threw 349 jabs, while Leonard only threw 260. Leonard landed 80 jabs. Hearns landed 121 jabs. Now, when you're watching this fight, you're not thinking about the fact that Hearns threw and landed more jabs. You're looking at, wow, look at how Hearns is hurting Leonard, right? So this is where the punch stats become skewed. And while you're watching the fight, you're not the punch stats really aren't reflecting 100% what you're focusing on, right? So it looked to me like even though Leonard did land some quality shots, he did hurt Hearns. It looked like Hearns was hurting Leonard more. But according to these punch stats, Leonard landed 152 power shots, while Hearns only landed 100. Right? And again, the power shots are anything thrown, and anything that's being thrown other than a jab. So the way the 10-point must system was applied here, and looking at the punch stats, it's all over the place, guys. So this is where the subjectivity of the scoring comes into play. And Judge Dalby Shirley, right, scored 2 10-8 rounds for Sugar Ray Leonard without Sugar Ray Leonard ever scoring a knockdown in this fight. So he did go out of the box here. He did go against the grain and said, you know what? I'm not going to give a decisive round to, Sugar Ray Leonard 10-9. I'm gonna reward him 10-8 because I thought he won the round dominantly. So the option is still there to do that, guys. Judges can still do that. Now, if they want to have seminars with the judges and say, you guys should probably score more rounds 10-8 when they're decisive. If that's what they want to do, that's fine too. But in this particular fight, judges went against the grain, right? And they did score decisive rounds 10-8. 3 of them did it. 3 rounds, the 3 judges did it in round 5, scored it 10-8 for Leonard without a knockdown being scored. And Judge Dalby Shirley did it in round 12, scored it 10-8 again for Leonard, even though a knockdown wasn't being scored. But once again, if you look at all 3 judges' scorecards, right, subjectivity still comes into play, right? My scorecard is significantly different than theirs, right? Unofficial AP scorecard had Leonard winning 113 and 112. Unofficial UPI scorecard had Leonard winning 113 and 112. Unofficial Boxing Herald scorecard scored at 113 and 112 for Hearns. Unofficial KO magazine scorecard had at 115 and 113. Right? Let's look at the the scoring in terms of how the fans had it. The average fan scorecard, let me double check here if I could see. The average fan scorecard had this fight 115 to 113. Excuse me, let me look at it. Yeah, the average fan scorecard, had this fight 115 and 111, like me. So the average fan scorecard had this fight 115 and 111, like myself. And let's see what they did. The fans gave Tommy Hearns the first 3. They gave Leonard rounds 4 and 5. So we disagreed on round 4, right? I gave it to Hearns. They gave it to Leonard. Right? Let's look at round 5. Round 5, I gave to Leonard. They gave round 5 to Leonard. Round 6, I gave to Leonard. They gave it to Hearns. Right? Round 7 and 8, I gave to Hearns. Round 7 and 8, they gave to Hearns. Rounds 9, 10, and 11, right? 9 and 10, I gave to Leonard, right? 9 and 10, they gave to Leonard. Round 11, I gave 10-8 to Hearns. Round 11, they had it 10-8, the fans. Round 12, I had it 10-9 to Leonard. The fans had it 10-9. So we agreed on, let me see how many rounds I agreed with the fans on. 1, 2, 3. Disagreed on round 4. 5. We agreed on. So we disagreed on, I agreed with 10 of the rounds of the fans, with 2 rounds being different, right? So if you think about it, if I swing those 2 rounds, right, to Leonard, that the fans like had differently than me, right? Then it becomes 113 and 113. So this fight could be a draw, right? This fight could be a draw when you look at my card comparable to the fans. So it's not impossible to score this fight a draw, right? It's not. This fight was close, right? So you had Tom Kazmarek scoring it for Leonard 113 and 112. You had Dalby Shuri scoring it 112 to 112. He scores that fight. If he scores that last round, 10-9, right? Then it becomes 113 and 112 for Hearns, right? Just like it was 113 and 112 on Jerry Roth's scorecard for Hearns, right? So again, this is a fight that's open to interpretation. Fans had it, same as me, 115 and 111, 43 scorers. But once again, we disagreed on 2 rounds. Flip those 2 rounds to Leonard, whatever. It's not impossible to score this fight a draw. It's not. I don't think it was a draw on my card, but not impossible to score this fight a draw. But Ray Leonard himself thought he lost this fight. So let's go back and let's look at this this interview, which is very funny. Dalby Shirley, who scored this fight 112 to 112, right? He said after the fight, when being interviewed by Larry Merchant, this was one of the rare times when a judge was actually being interviewed. Larry Merchant interviewed this guy, right? Dalby Shirley said he thought Hearns had won the fight and was taken aback when it was announced that he had scored the fight 112 to 112. I was kind of surprised it came out a draw because I did not keep a running total, Shirley said during an interview with Larry Merchant on HBO, which replayed the fight on June 17th. Merchant joked to Shirley that if the judge had been in the stands, he might have been booing his own scoring. After the interview, Merchant said he was surprised by his own score, thinking Hearns had won decisively. Merchant added up his score and discovered that he had Hearns winning only by a point. So see, guys, you can be watching a fight, as Dalby Shirley and Larry Merchant had admitted, you could be watching a fight thinking one thing is happening, but after you add up your scorecard at the end, right? The fight you think you're watching, or the so-called story of the fight that Max Kellerman tells you to apply to the scoring, right? Or suggests that you apply to the scoring, right? Becomes irrelevant when you're scoring a fight round by round, right? You're scoring a fight round by round, and because rounds are being played out in certain ways, right? You're still going to add up the points at the end, and regardless of how it looks, what the scorecard says at the end, once all of your points are added up, is what you scored the fight. So when you're watching this fight, Hearns versus Leonard 2, everyone thought, majority of people thought that Hearns dominated this fight. But when you add up all the points at the end, Larry Merchant had him Hearns winning by a point. Dalby Shirley was shocked when he came to a scorecard of 112-112. Right? He was shocked. Like I said, I had it 115 and 111 for Hearns, and there's probably not a bigger Sugar Ray Leonard fan on the planet than me. Could I have given that round in round 5 a 10-8? Even if I do that, Hearns still wins 114 and 112 on my card. Right? Could I score round 12, 10-8 for Leonard? Could. I don't think it was warranted. Maybe round 5, yeah, I could say that. Round 12, two of the judges didn't, right? So this was one of those fights where, yeah, there were rounds scored 10-8 with no knockdowns involved. There were dominant rounds that the fighter who dominated decisively got rewarded for it. But it still didn't take away the subjectivity of the fight, because the fight ended up being a split draw, right? So you could be watching a fight thinking that another guy's winning, but when you add up your points at the end, he may not be winning as dominantly as you thought, or he may not even win at all because it's scored on a round by round basis. And then I heard Kellerman say, "Oh well, a touchdown. If someone scores a touchdown in football, a touchdown is 7 points. Field goal's 3 points. Okay, Max, that's great. But let's look at the other end of that argument, right? If you're playing in a basketball game, if you lose by a blowout or you lose by 1 point, you still lose, right? So you don't get extra points as a team if you blow a team out or if you win by 1 point, right? A win is a win. So apply that same logic to boxing. You don't have to blow a guy out to beat him. You don't have to blow a guy out to win a round. Now, if you want to argue that more 10-8 rounds should be scored in the sport, fine. But ask yourself, in rounds 10 and 11, did Lomachenko deserve a 10-8 round in both rounds? Now, you can make an argument for round 10. All right, it's fine. So round 11, I would say probably not, but round 10, yeah. You score that round 10-8 for Lomachenko instead of 10-9? Guess what? A lot of the people who scored it 115 and 113 for Haney, then the fight becomes a draw. So Lomachenko could still not win if you score round 10, which is the most dominating fight for Lomachenko. If you score it 10-8, the fight still becomes a draw. Right? Similar to this fight where 3 judges scored round 5, 10-8 for Leonard, but only 1 scored round 12, 10-8 for Leonard. So let's apply that same logic to the Devin Haney-Vasily Lomachenko fight, right? And you still only come up with a draw if you make that 10-8 for Vasily Lomachenko. So no matter what you do when it comes to the scoring, in my opinion, it's always going to come down to subjectivity, if you think about it. And the perfect example of that is this Sugar Ray Leonard versus Tommy Hearns fight. And Dave Moretti having that round 10-10 in the Gervonta Davis Ryan Garcia fight. Once again, to me, that's another red flag. So this guy's had a history of controversy, right? He thought Ryan was winning that round 10-8. And Tank had to score a knockdown just to even it out, right? The other 2 judges scored it 10-9. So they thought Ryan was winning that round as well. And even with the knockdown, they still thought he won the round. So they gave the round. They gave Tank a point for the knockdown, but did not give him an extra point for winning the round. So all 3 judges essentially, minus the knockdown, thought Ryan was winning that round. And then the knockdown changed it for all 3 of them. Was it impossible to score that round 10-9 for Tank? If you thought he was losing the round, but you gave him a point for the knockdown? Right? Remember, it's a 10-point must system. Right? So if you think Tank's losing the round, and you got Ryan up 10-9, but then you give Tank a point for the knockdown and you subtract a point from Ryan for the knockdown, then you could have it 10-9 for Tank, but you would have to have Ryan winning that round 10-8 and then have that knockdown occur and give Tank the point for the knockdown and give him an extra point for winning it because of the knockdown. That's the only way you can come up with 10-10. So once again, is it corruption or is it incompetence? Is it incompetence for Dave Moretti? That's what you have to ask yourself. But you can do anything you want here. You can change things, whatever. But the application of the rules or the application of the criteria, the application of the scoring system will always be open to interpretation and come down to subjectivity. It's always going to be, what does a judge like? Does he prefer a counterpunching style, or does he prefer a guy who's coming forward? Harold Lenneman preferred the aggressive guy in all of the Pacquiao fights, right? He favored the guy coming forward, right? He even said during one of the telecasts, well, you can tell Manny Pacquiao's is more effective. Just look at Marquez's face. I don't know. You can take that for what it's worth. I'm not going to disrespect Harold Letterman. He passed away. He's a great guy, nice guy, but doesn't mean I have to agree with him. Doesn't mean I have to agree with him. So, is the scoring system flawed, or is it all about the interpretation of the scoring system? Do some of these judges need to be weeded out? Does David Moretti need to go away? Right? What are these judges missing when they're scoring these fights? What are they looking for? Why aren't they being interviewed after the fight? Why aren't they being asked to explain their scorecard after the fight? I explained my scorecard after the fight. I was in the minority here, right? And when you're in the minority, you're held to a higher level of scrutiny. People question you more. When the majority of people disagree with you, right? You're held to a higher scrutiny. You're held under a higher scrutiny. And that's not always comfortable. You have to explain why why the majority of people saw something that you did not. It's an uncomfortable position sometimes. But I'm going to tell you all this, and take this with a grain of salt and take this for what it's worth. Because I've spoken to a lot of you over the years. I've been friends with you. I'm still friends with a lot of you, right? And just remember, there's going to come a time when you're going to be in that minority. You're going to fall into the 20, 25%, 30%. It's going to happen. And you have to ask yourself, are you going to react the same way that you did and be consistent being in that 25 to 30%? Hold yourself to the same standard than what you are when you're in the 75%. Not going to mention names, not going to disrespect anyone, but I will say there's been times when I've been in that 25, 30%, and other people on here have been in that 25, 30% with me, right? But in this particular instance and situation, I'm still in the 25, 30%. Now they're in the 75%. And now all of a sudden they're forgetting when they were in the minority. Now they're saying, well, everyone says this, so it has to be right. They're appealing to the public opinion when before they weren't doing that in other situations. So if you want to make your argument, well, everyone else is saying it, so it must be true, then you have to apply that when you're in that 25, 30% too, right? If all of a sudden body punches didn't count in this fight, and you said they counted in the Canelo Lara fight, you're not being consistent, right? You're not being consistent. When I'm hearing things like, since when do body punches count like that? When these same people openly said the reason why Canelo beat Lara is because of the body shots. So I have to be honest with you guys. You're not being consistent, and that's the problem. You can have any opinion you want, right? But when you make statements like, well, everyone else sees it a certain way, so it has to be that way. Okay, then apply that logic when you're in the minority, because it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I don't score rounds based on what I think the judges are going to score it. That's another thing I hear in here. Well, I scored the round based on how I thought the judge was going to score it. No, not part of the scoring criteria. Score the round how you think it's supposed to be scored. Oh, well, everyone says that so-and-so won, or the majority of people say that so-and-so won, right? So it has to be that way. These people can't be wrong. Okay. Then you're going to have to go back and change your scorecards in the times when the majority of people said you were wrong and disagreed with you. Can't have it both ways. Eric and I, we stopped criticizing scorecards. We stopped using the word. I stopped using the word robbery. I can't remember the last time I used the word robbery in a fight. Can't. I thought Lara beat Canelo. I thought Triple G beat Canelo twice. But I don't disparage anyone who disagreed with me on that, because I can see the other side. But just remember, the internet's forever. I may have a bad memory, but some things I don't forget. Right? A lot of things other people don't forget either. So there's going to be a time when you're going to be in that minority. Being in the minority means simply just that. More people disagree with you. Now, does that make your opinion less relevant? Does that mean your opinion should be dismissed? Should it be demeaned? Should you be insulted for it? Well, you can be. I mean, people want, again, I put myself out here. I'm on the internet all the time. My name is Joseph Habib. I live in Revere, Massachusetts. It's not hard to find me. Like, I put myself out there, right? So whatever comes my way, comes my way. I can deal with it. But I will point out even hypocrisy from myself, right? There's been situations where you can call me out on hypocrisy, right? But I own it. I own it, right? Just remember, there's going to be a time where you're going to be in that 25%, and you're going to be on the other side of the argument, right? And just remember the things you're saying and doing right now. Just remember the things you said and did and the stances you took before and how you're not being consistent now, right? How you're not being consistent now. That's all. So yeah, there's always going to be subjectivity, and there's always going to be a bias, right? I'll openly tell you, I'm not a fan of Canelo's style all the time, or Lomachenko's style all the time when I'm watching a fight. And the reason why scoring fights for those two guys is hard for me, right? And I find myself scoring against them. Now, I did have Lomachenko beating Jermaine Ortiz, but I had him edging it out, close fight, right? I think it was 6-4. That was a 10-round fight. I think that was a 10-round fight, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just double check. I think I had it 6-4, if I'm not mistaken, for Lomachenko. I think that was a close fight. Let me just double check. Pull up my card for that one. I think I had Lomachenko edging that one out, 6-4. But I'll tell you, for me, what I don't like about Canelo when I'm watching him fight, and what I don't like about Lomachenko. I do think both Canelo and Lomachenko fight in spurts, right? And when I'm watching them fight, I'm looking at the amount of time during the fight that they're having success, right? That's what I'm looking at. And now, obviously, if they're not having as much success for as much a period of time in the round as the other fighter, but the type of success they're having is more significant, yeah, I'll give them the round. But if it's a close round, right, And I'm watching it. Oh, so that was actually a 12-round fight for Jermaine Ortiz and Vasyl Lomachenko, and I had it 7 rounds to 5 for Vasyl Lomachenko. So it was a close fight. It was a very close fight, right? And but that's what I'm doing. Like when I'm watching a fight, I'm looking at the clock. I'm looking at how much of the round a fighter is controlling, and how much of the round I'm timing the fighter's success. Now, unless he has a significant, like his success is much more significant than the other guys, right? Then I'm gonna have him losing a round. So it's hard scoring rounds sometimes when you watch a Canelo fight and a Lomachenko fight because these guys fight in spurts, right? Now people can look at that Sugar Ray Leonard Marvin Hagler fight and say, oh well, Sugar Ray Leonard was trying to steal the rounds at the end. Well, let me just say this. Right? In my opinion, while I was watching that fight, I thought Sugar Ray Leonard came out strong in the first minute. And then he would kind of coast a little bit in the second minute. And then he would pick it back up again in the third minute. With Lomachenko and Canelo, sometimes they don't get started till with half the round over, right? And they finish the round strong, so that stays fresh in people's heads. But people tend to forget about what they saw in the first half of the round. What's up, man?
Joe, how's it going?
How you doing, man?
Good, dude. Hey, dude, with the scoring system, Joe, what about follow what D-Style said about a couple of months ago? Just make it offensive. And don't want, in terms of the defense, if you like what D-Style was saying, if you don't get hit, that means that counts towards your kind of like your defensive style or defensive scoring per se. Just make it offensive. So whoever punches, whoever lands the most, that's the guy who wins the round. Because if your opponent doesn't land on you, that means that you have good defense. So that's already taken into account. It just makes it, because man, effective defense, that is so subjective. Like
everything. I don't know if you were watching earlier when I was describing the Sugar Ray Leonard Thomas Hearns fight, because Thomas Hearns was outlanded in that fight, but because of the quality of his punches, a lot of people thought his punches were more significant. They were more damaging. They were more effective based on, Sugar Ray Leonard getting knocked down twice, based on Sugar Ray Leonard getting staggered more and hurt more. You're never going to make the whole point of this argument in this video is you're never going to make it easy, because in that Sugar Ray Leonard Thomas Hearns 2 fight, decisive rounds without knockdowns were given to Sugar Ray Leonard. There were 3 judges gave him round 5, 10-8 without Tommy Hearns going down. 1 judge gave him round 12, 10-8 without Tommy Hearns going down. So you could still apply that 10-8 if you want. There's no one telling a judge in a dominant round, if you wanted to score round 10, 10-8 for Lomachenko, there's an argument for that, in my opinion. So this whole thing about, why all rounds scored 10-9, they don't have to be. It's still up and open to the judge's discretion. If you want to give, like I said before, in that Serrano-Taylor fight, I almost gave Serrano a 10-8 round in round 5. I was that close. You did, right?
Mm-hmm. I had a 6-6, but to me, Serrano won because I gave her a 10-8 round.
And guess what? There's nothing wrong with that, brother. I had it for Taylor, right? So if I score that 10-8, fight's a draw on my card. So we need to stop saying it has to be this, it should be that, because the scoring system is open to interpretation and always will be. Because even if you encourage judges to score the more decisive rounds 10-8, they still have to decide and come up with what warrants a 10-8 round. Is this fight decisive? Is this round decisive enough where I'm going to have to score this 10-8? So there's always going to be some degree of subjectivity involved in scoring, no matter how you change the criteria or whatever. Now, what you could do, and I suggested this earlier, is if a round is really dominant, encourage judges to score more 10-8 rounds if they want to. Right? If you wanted to score around 10-10-8 for Lomachenko, I wouldn't have had a problem with that. If someone told, if one of the judges had that round 10-8, I would be like, okay. Because I openly said during the show on Sunday, that was a round where I thought Haney was in serious trouble. I thought Haney was in serious trouble in that round. So if you want to score that round 10-8, I don't have a problem with it. I'm not going to argue with you.
Joe, what about also to make it simple, instead of a 10-point must system, why don't you just make it one? Like if you win a round, that's 1 point, right? Like make it like, so there's 12 rounds in a fight, right? So make it like a 1 point system rather than 12. So when when the announcer says, okay, the guy won 10-4, or sorry, 10-2 or 8-4, then people will know that's the score. Joe, if you ask someone out in the street who doesn't follow boxing and say, oh, the score was 120, 108, no one would know that that's a 12-0 round, right? Because it's like no one understands that. It's not like, you know what I mean, Joe? It's like, it's too confusing to people. Like, just make it simple. Make it like a one. You know what I mean, Joe? Does it make sense?
Did you hear what? Yeah, they used to do that before. Certain commissions used to do that before. I think the New York State Athletic Commission used to do that before. Did you read what I said about Dalby Shirley earlier when he was being interviewed by Larry Merchant after the Tommy Hearns Leonard second fight? Were you listening in when I was talking about that?
No, I just came in, dude.
Listen to this. So Dalby Shirley was the person that gave Sugar Ray Leonard 2 10-8 rounds without Sugar Ray Leonard scoring a knockdown. And this is what he said, because he had the fight 112. And here's the thing, man. I'm the biggest Sugar Ray. I absolutely adore Sugar Ray Leonard. I love this man. Pause. But this guy is like one of this guy is my favorite fighter of all time. This guy but I had him losing that fight 115 and 111. I thought he clearly lost the fight, in my opinion. So listen to what Dalby Shirley said. Dalby Shirley said he thought Hearns had won the fight and was taken aback when it was announced that he had scored the fight 112-112. I was kind of surprised it came out a draw because I did not keep a running total, Shirley said. During an interview with Larry Merchant on HBO, which replayed the fight on June 17th, Merchant joked to Shirley that if the judge had been in the stands, he might have booed his own scoring. And after the interview, Merchant said he was surprised by his own score. Thinking Hearns had won decisively, Merchant added up his own score and discovered that he had Hearns winning by only a point. And this is why when I hear about the Jack Catterall, Josh Taylor fight, how people went crazy about how that fight was a robbery. I had Jack Catterall winning that fight by a point. I thought that was a razor close fight. And I was baffled by people saying that was one of the worst decisions they've ever seen.
I think
so it's easy to watch a fight. It's easy to watch a fight and have a certain perception while you're watching it. But you have to score it round by round.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, when they were watching that fight with Devin Haney, Lomachenko, while they were watching it at the arena, while they were watching it with their friends, they weren't scoring it round by round.
Joe, I think if you score it round by round, you'd be surprised if you scorecard 2 at the end. If you really like if you have a piece of paper and you score, but you give, after the round ends, you give that paper to like your relative or whatever, so you don't have a running score. You just score it round by round, and then at the end, that relative he or she will score up your tally. I bet when it comes to like close fights, so for example, the Loma Devin Haney fight, you would be surprised on what your result will be, because Loma had the more. In fact, Max Kellerman said this on Max on Boxing too. Loma had the more definitive rounds where he was dominating, and Haney had the less. Like he won the round, but it wasn't that he didn't win it definitively. Yeah, he still won him though.
Okay. Outside of 10 and 11, are there any other definitive rounds Loma won in your opinion?
I thought he did a few more rounds, because he was springing his head back. What's that terminology where it's like
snapping his head back?
Yeah, snapping it back. Like
okay, I didn't start seeing that until the 8th round. My opinion. I didn't start seeing that till the 8th round.
Also, Beebs, watching that fight the second time and knowing what the outcome is and knowing what everyone is saying, I think that body shots in the early stages of the fight, I thought it did. Now that I've watched it the second time, I thought it did affect Loma, because in the 12th round, he was done. He was done.
He slowed down a bit. Here's the thing, man. I'm not going to disparage or discredit anything Lomachenko did. But in that 12th round, both guys were tired. Because think about this, little Penny.
What's the Loma, though?
Oh, you thought I thought they were both tired. So you're thinking Loma was more tired than that 12th. But let's unpack that a little bit. Could we argue that because he threw so many punches in round 10 and 11, that it took a lot out of him in the 12th? And then the counter argument is, oh, well, let's look at the punch stats. Look how many he threw and landed. Here's the thing, little Penny, and tell me if you agree with this. He went into that 12th round, and the punches he was throwing, he was not throwing those punches with full intensity. Those were a lot of shoe shining, more pitter pat type punches, right? And to me, they were punches just to keep Devin Haney occupied defensively. They were just being thrown in an attempt to keep Devin Haney off him, more so, right?
Yes.
They were not. He was not fighting aggressively in that round. He was not throwing, like I said, punches with full intensity. He wasn't turning those shots over. He wasn't trying to punch through his opponent in that round. That was not an overly aggressive round for Lomachenko. That was more of a, I'm going to throw get off me punches more so. I'm going to throw, shoe shine, pitter pat punches, more in a defensive manner as opposed to an offensive manner. These are punches to keep Devin Haney off me more so. That's what I saw. Am I wrong? Am I wrong in that assessment?
No, you're right. But Beebs, when I first watched that fight, because I've always thought, man, I've always thought that Loma was that dude because of his footwork and his volume, and it kind of reminds me of like Pacquiao with his volume. Not he doesn't have the power of Pacquiao, but just the way he darts in and out, and he doesn't run out of energy. I thought in the 11th round when he hurt Haney badly, right? Okay, maybe he didn't finish him off, right? And I thought to myself, okay, in the 12th round, he's going to stop him because he's that dude. Because he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Because he's a living legend.
I thought there was a chance, full disclosure. I'm like, oh, Haney might get stopped here in the 10th. That crossed my mind.
For me.
Okay, fair enough. But here's the thing, man. And Teddy Atlas said this, and again, I'm not saying because Teddy Atlas said it, you have to believe it. But this is what Teddy Atlas said. Did he take his foot off the pedal because he emptied out the gas tank?
He could have in the 10th.
We don't know.
Sorry, 11.
And the same thing happened to Serrano in her fight with Katie Taylor after that huge 5th round. What happened? She started to slow down a little bit because she threw in a 2-minute round. She threw 100 punches in a 2-minute round, little Penny.
Yeah.
You're going to tell me that's not That's not going to, and
Power
Lomachenko,
punches too.
the amount of punches Lomachenko threw in round 10 and 11, you're going to tell me that that's not going to affect him going into the final round?
But Bibbs, my argument is, if you're that dude, because I remember like guys like Pacquiao, even Sugar Ray Leonard.
Love him.
I remember when he knocked out Tommy Hearns in the, I think it was
First
in the
fight.
What it
14th
was really
round.
late.
14th round. Yeah, 14th.
It was really late too, and it was actually losing that fight at the end.
He was losing that. Once again, I love the man. Great man. I interviewed him. While I was interviewing the guy, I was like, this was like one of the highest moments of my life. This guy, I love this guy. But I look at this, I score his fights, and I look at him objectively. When he fought Donnie Leon at 168 pounds, and he forced Donnie Leon to put his 175-pound title on the line, along with that 168, I openly said, I don't think this is right. This is not cool. So I can be a fan of somebody, right? And be objective at the same time.
Yeah.
I was rooting for him to beat Tommy Hearns. He didn't win on my card. I scored it objectively. I thought he lost the fight 115-111. The average fan scorecard, 45 fans scored that fight on BoxRec, and they had the same scorecard as me, 115-111 for Hearns.
But Beebs, my initial point is that the reason why Sugar Ray Leonard and guys like Sugar Ray Leonard and Manny Pacquiao, like that dude, is because they do, when they do have a 10th and 11th round, and where they throw a lot of punches, they still have some left at the 12th. Like I remember when Pacquiao was fighting Morales at the rematch, before the round that Pacquiao knocked out Morales and made him quit in the rematch, the fight was even. It was even. Like Morales was still outboxing Pacquiao, and Pacquiao won some rounds too. But because Pacquiao he's that dude, right? He knocked him out. Whereas, because I was expecting Loma to do that 2 weeks ago, but he didn't do it, which means that he's not that dude. He may be a second ballot Hall of Famer, but he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer in my eyes. Because you know
again,
what I mean?
that's going to be subjective too.
What do you think is the first ballot Hall of Famer?
Who, Lomachenko?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd vote him in. I would say yes. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. He's a phenomenal fighter. I'm not going to take that away from him.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Now, here's the problem. We have a tendency that when we compare these guys, all you should do is compare them to fighters in their era.
Oh yeah.
Problem is we start looking at them and comparing them to other fighters in different eras. Do I think he's an all-time great? Like, is he a top 20 fighter of all time?
No.
In my opinion, I would say no. But he is one of the best in his eras. So when you heard people say, oh, this guy's one of the, like when you hear statements like this guy has the highest power connect percentage in the history of the lightweight division, that's like saying a guy who gets up 10 times in baseball has the highest batting average when he's only getting up 10 times. You're comparing this guy to a Roberto Duran who's fought he's fought like 120 fights. And you're comparing a guy who's fought like 17 fights. How many fights has Lomachenko fought? 20? What's he, 17-3? He's fought. You're comparing a guy with 20 fights to a guy with over 100-something fights, and you're using a statistic that is grossly skewed because, again, the guy's only had 20. At the time, I think he had 17 fights when that statistic was made and put up there on the ESPN graphic board. So comparing him to like Roberto Duran, this is to me where it starts getting hazy. When you hear like Aram say, "Oh, he's one of the best fighters of all time."
He always says
I mean, you could still be great and still be very good, but still be overrated. And I do think that this man was overrated, but he's still great, and he's still a first ballot Hall of Famer based on what he's done in comparison to other fighters in his era. You can only compare a guy to his era. Same thing with Anthony Joshua. You can only compare Anthony Joshua to the fighters in his era, and he was arguably top 2, top 3, unified the belts, 2-time heavyweight champion. You got to give him credit. Now, whether or not you think he could beat Muhammad Ali or George Foreman or Lennox Lewis, that shouldn't weigh into the argument.
Because I do think Fury is a first ballot Hall of Famer, because in my criteria to be a first ballot Hall of Famer,
best heavyweight of all time,
you have to beat also a first ballot Hall of Famer, right? And Loma hasn't done that. He hasn't beaten a Hall of Famer. Who is he? He's been his best victory was probably maybe Russell at 126 or 130. I can't remember. He's not a Hall of Famer. Who else has he been? He's been Linares. Linares was washed up by the time Loma got to him. But I do acknowledge that he went from 126 to 135, which is an incredible feat. Like, there's not many people who have done that. Even Prince Nassim Hamed didn't do that. He was at 126. He didn't go up to 130, 135. You know what I mean, Peeps?
So, you're making some good points, Penny.
But I do think to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, you got to beat a first ballot Hall of Famer as well. Or you beat a lot of second ballot Hall of Famers. You beat like.
Let me ask you this: do you think Guillermo Rigondeaux goes into the Hall of Fame?
No.
Okay. Do you think?
Because
so if you were to vote today, Lomachenko retired and 5 years elapse, and little Penny's got to vote. Is he casting that vote for Lomachenko? Is he opening the doors and putting his hand on Lomachenko's back and saying, "Come on in, sir," or is he slamming it shut, telling him, "We're close today, buddy"?
No,
what are you doing? What are you doing?
I'd put him in as a second ballot Hall of Famer. Second ballot.
But little Penny.
Which means
what difference does it make if you put him in first or second? You're gonna let him in anyway. So he's all whether he's a first ballot
in time. Okay, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Why? Like, what are you gonna punish him? What are you gonna punish him? We'll let you win, but we're not gonna let you win right away. Come on, man.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Eventually,
Please.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Just let him in. You're gonna let him in anyways. Let him in. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Why you gotta be a cock tease, little Penny?
But Beebs, by the way, Beebs, I saw that interview. Sorry, just going back to another
Go
topic.
ahead.
I saw that interview with Max. It was Stephen A. Smith, and then he had Errol and Bud on ESPN, right? And I thought to myself, man, this is when I was just watching it, I was thinking these are the two most boring.
Don't do that, little Penny. Don't do that.
No, because Errol, No. I do think they're exciting fighters in the ring, but when Errol speaks, right, it's like you're in church, dude. It's like, dude, you're like so like boring to hear. Like, you make me fall asleep. Like, and Bud, he's not that like he's not Rolly. That's what I'm saying. Like, in terms of like speaking per se, like. You know what I mean?
You are gonna sit here and say Rolly Romero is a good speaker?
No, but like, he's interesting.
When you listen to a Rolly Romero interview, is there anything insightful that you take away from? But I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. A lot of people are gonna call me an idiot and disagree. I think Rolly Romero is hilarious. That guy is fucking hilarious.
He is hilarious.
I think that guy's hilarious, bro.
He's like a
the faces he makes. He's asked a question, right? He's asked a question. They ask him a question. He just makes that face. It's like there's not an interview that he doesn't do that I don't laugh my ass off during.
Yeah, because it's the way he talks, like his voice. It's very Paulie Malignaggi like. Remember when Paulie fought Cotto and in Madison Square Garden, and before the fight, Paulie was really building it up. He was building himself up like he was some sort of like he was like Tommy Hearns, where he could to where he said he was going to knock out Miguel Cotto, and the way he said it, it's so funny. And interestingly enough, he actually did hurt Miguel Cotto in that fight. It's like ironic.
I say that. Yeah, he buzzed Cotto in one of those rounds. I remember that.
He did.
What's funny? I had him winning like 4 or 5 rounds in that fight, and then he actually got knocked down. He clearly lost the fight, but he was very competitive in that fight, more competitive than I thought he was going to be.
He's smart, Paulie, in the ring.
We play the game. We play the game of woulda, coulda, shoulda. But honestly, you have to ask yourself what would have happened if he didn't have hand problems, because his hands were like fucked up. I had someone tell me one time they shook his hand, and he couldn't even grab their hand tight. Like it was like, shaking. He couldn't even really grip their hand fully because of how badly damaged his hand was, particularly that right hand.
Joe, Paulie Malignaggi reminds me of this basketball player, and you might know him because he's from the East Coast. His name was Mark Jackson.
I love Mark Jackson.
He wasn't the quickest. He wasn't the fastest. He couldn't even jump. He couldn't shoot. But dude, that guy played like 20 years in the league, and he's actually like number 2 or number 3 in the assist column. It's like, and I remember when I was watching him when he was with the Pacers, and they were playing the Bulls. Man, this guy is like, they couldn't guard him on the post because he was so strong, right? And his basketball IQ was so like off the chart. And it's the same thing with Paulie Malignaggi. He doesn't have the power, right? He might not be like the most gifted, talented fighter, but he finds ways to win based on his IQ.
You can argue, and a lot of people fall into this category. Paulie Malignaggi got the most he could out of his body physically.
Yeah,
he like, you can't. I respect Paulie Malignaggi. People will say, "Oh well, who cares? He's a 2-time world champion. Who did he beat?" He got the most out of his skill set. Like he left nothing. Like he put it all out there. In other words.
Yeah, but because I do think that the Spence Bud fight will do very well commercially. I wouldn't be surprised if it does $1 million. I think it does 900, 950.
Thank you. You know what I'm doing right now? My friend is a casual fan, right? But he loves this fight. He loves Errol Spence. He loves this fight. He's going to bet on it. He's a casual fan. So that's one guy we got in. We were in the car last night, him and I, with another guy. We talked to this other guy about the fight. So he started Googling Errol Spence. And he's like, oh, Max Kellerman's talking about it. Teddy Atlas is talking about it. So what I'm doing right now, and again, I'm a nobody. My outreach is limited. But even still, with my limited outreach, I'm trying to talk to as many people. I'm going to actively promote this fight because I think it's good for the. I think it's good for the sport.
But because I do disagree with Max Kellerman a little bit when he was saying we're getting this fight at the right time. No, we're not, dude. Bud Crawford is 35 years old. Errol Spence is 33 years old. Does that remind you of the Pacquiao Mayweather fight? Because I remember Pacquiao was like maybe 30.
Okay.
Pacquiao was 33, I think, or 34. Mayweather was 36.
I'll tell you the difference. When you look at Mayweather and Pacquiao at that time, you can see from other fights slippage. Pacquiao was knocked out by Marquez.
Definitely Pacquiao.
Pacquiao's had some tough ones. Mayweather had the tough fight with Maidana, right?
Yeah.
He had that tough fight with Maidana. I had him winning that fight 115 and 113. Some people had it a draw. Some people had him losing. So you saw signs of slippage, regardless of how much.
More so Pacquiao, though.
Okay, fair enough. Let me ask you this: you've watched the last 5 fights of both guys. Mm-hmm. Have you seen slippage in any guy?
Maybe
take away the age and just look at the performances. Now you could argue Errol had that shaky moment against Ugas, and I think it was round 5, but he recovered and he finished strong in that fight and knocked him out. Had a very impressive knockout.
He did.
So what I tell people, I say, I'm going to quote Gabe Montoya once again. Don't look at the numbers, look behind the numbers. You're seeing 30. What is it? What is it? 30? Is Bud 35 yet, or is he 34?
35.
And Spence is 33.
Yes.
So take away the age and look at the last 6 performances and ask yourself, have there been signs of significant slippage?
A little bit with Spence. Not Bud, a little bit with Spence. But the thing is, Bud's been inactive. Like, dude, like, geez, like.
Okay, explain to me in what fight you thought you saw slippage in Spence.
I just think that Spence is no like, because I remember watching that. I remember waking up pretty early and watching that Spence versus Kell Brook fight, where man he walked down Kell Brook. Look. All right, maybe Kell Brook was a little like, because Triple G knocked him out, right, and damaged his eye. But Kell Brook, like, he wasn't. He's a tricky fighter. In fact, he beat Sean Porter from memory. I can't even remember. So that wasn't a, and it was that was at Kell Brook's hometown too. So he was fighting away from her. So I just think that Errol Spence, I didn't see that against Ugas. I just think that, like, from the eyesight point of view, I do think that he's first of all, he's detached retina. That's not going away. That it's not like one of those wounds where it heals after a couple of years. It stays there, right? Also, his accident. He had a major car crash, right? And then after that fight, I think he fought Mikey Garcia, right? From memory?
So, yeah. I believe so.
Mikey Garcia.
No, I apologize. No, he fought Danny Garcia after the car accident.
Oh, okay, Danny Garcia. Okay, all right.
Sorry about that. Danny Garcia, he fought after the accident.
Okay, yeah. Look, if because I'm actually picking Bud Crawford for this fight,
Bud,
even though he's older.
Let's Bud fought in December, right? So he didn't fight that long ago. Okay. I think he fought Avanesian in December of I want to say last year.
Okay.
So
my mistake.
So that's,
who are you picking in this fight, Bibbs?
I'll be honest with you. I like Crawford big in this fight. I love Crawford in this fight, and I'll tell you why.
I like him too.
I'll tell you why. This is where I think it gets complicated for Spence. I do think Crawford has quicker feet. I think he has quicker hands. I think he's more versatile.
Yeah.
Spence is a good outside fighter. He's a good inside fighter. Where Crawford separates himself with Spence, and I think pretty significantly, is in the mid-range. That's where Crawford's going to separate himself, in that mid-range area. Because when you watch Spence fight, he likes to either be all the way out or all the way in. And when people catch him in the mid-range, that's where he's shown the most vulnerability. Even Ugas hit him with some. Ugas is another guy who I think is a good mid-range fighter, and he buzzed Spence in that 5th round, I believe, and staggered him back to the ropes.
He buzzed Pacquiao too before the Spence
yeah.
fight.
So this is where I think the problems are going to arise for Spence. I don't think he's going to be able to keep Crawford out of that mid-range area. I think Crawford's going to fight large portions of the fight in that mid-range area. And that's where I think, the quick, sharp punches are going to have effect on Spence.
Bibbs, can Bud Crawford get old overnight? Because he's 35, dude. And this isn't like the light heavyweight or cruiserweight or heavyweight where 35 is still okay. Welterweight is like, it's in the lower weight divisions. 35 is not 35. It's more like 38.
Let me use myself as an example. I'm going to be 54 in a couple months. I mean, come on. Ask the honey dips if I'm 54. That's all I got to ask.
Hey,
That's all I got to say to you.
Bibbs, did you know Al Pacino is 80 years old and he's got a child at 80? At 80, dude. Got someone pregnant. His girlfriend or wife or whatever.
Well, that's
80
that's
years
the
old,
thing.
dude.
That's the thing about being a guy. We can bust nuts till we die, bro. We can have kids. We can have kids till we die, man. We don't go through menopause like females do, right? We can bust nuts till we die.
Hey, Beebs, what do you think of the movie Heat? Have you seen Heat with Al Pacino?
I love that movie. Love that movie.
I loved it. There's so many quotes in that movie. Damn.
I apply a lot of those quotes to my real life, man.
Same too, man. Like
I tell all the honey dips that I could walk away from you in a second.
in 30 seconds flat.
30 seconds flat.
If you don't see the danger around the corner or some shit like that.
Once I see the danger around the corner, I won't hesitate.
Oh, Beebs. Because she's got a great ass, and your head is all the way up it.
Yeah.
See that scene?
He's one of the greats.
Yeah, he is.
My favorite actor of all time, I'd have to say, is Denzel Washington.
Yeah. Yes.
I love Denzel. Denzel Washington.
Malcolm X, man, my God, Malcolm X. That movie, Malcolm X.
He
should have won Best Actor in that year, but it was in fact it was Al Pacino who won in that year for Sense of a Woman.
You know what's crazy about that movie, right? If you go back and you listen to Malcolm X actually do his speeches, and you listen to his voice, the cadence of his voice, the pitch of his voice, what Denzel Washington, what he did in that movie, the way, like, he did such a great job of just actually speaking, and the way he portrayed that character was so well done. It was like, if you go back and listen to the actual speeches, then you listen to Denzel Washington, like, wow, he did such a great job with how he would raise like the pitch of his voice and the cadence, and it was beautiful, bro. He did a phenomenal job.
Beebs, I used to work for this other broking firm, right? And we were talking about Malcolm X, and these two Jewish guys who I was sitting next to, friggin' hell, by the way. They're saying
be careful.
No, it's all right. They're saying Malcolm X was a racist movie. And I was saying, dude, it's a biography movie. Of course it's going to be racist. Like, what do you expect? What, do you expect him to be like Jesus Christ or something? You know what I mean? It's like, of course it's going to be racist. Like, that. It's a biography. It's like, like if you have a biography of Magic Johnson, you're not going to have him like with like AC Green, where he withheld it for 12 years. It's going to be like, he went to the Playboy Mansion, blah, blah, blah. He probably reached 10,000. Who knows? Like, you know what I mean? He didn't reach Wilt Chamberlain's record, but it's right. Magic Johnson is right up there. Like, you know what I mean, Beebs?
What do you think of your Lakers, man? What happened to your Lakers?
Hey, they're going after Kyrie Irving. They're going to trade the Japanese guy, their point guard, and the first round draft pick for Kyrie Irving. It's a sign and trade deal to Dallas. I don't think it will work. Kyrie Irving, he's mentally gone. He's mentally retired.
What do you think of the Celtics? We got our backs up against the wall. That's when we're the most dangerous. We can pull this one out. We're playing tonight, man. We got our backs. We're going to be in Miami right now. We got our backs up against the wall.
This is Miami's game 7. If they don't win this game,
over.
Boston's going to clean him out in game 7. They're going to wipe him. Because maybe, sometimes I remember when the Chicago, it will take them sometimes maybe a couple of games to figure out the other team's offensive schemes, especially like New York, or Cleveland. The Bulls will take about a couple of games, 2 or 3 games to figure them out, and then after that they'll just wipe them off the floor, right? Maybe Boston have figured them out, right? They've figured them out because really it's only really Jimmy Butler, right? He's really the engine. If you shut that engine off, like everything is like, because the others they can't.
Would you argue that Boston has the more talented team?
Oh, of course, yeah. If you had a draft pick between the two teams, the first two pick is Jaylen Brown and what's his name? The other Tatum. Number 3 would probably be Jimmy Butler, right?
The thing about Tatum is when
He's
he's
hot and cold.
when he's on, he
Yeah,
is
he's on.
so good.
But
Like
he's
when
hot
he
and
just
cold.
yeah, I don't know what happens to him. But when he's on, he's just a vicious player, man. Like when he takes it strong to the hoop, when he's got his shot going for him,
I'm actually Beeps. I'm surprised.
it's beautiful watching that guy play when he's on. He's
Yeah.
so good, man.
But Beeps, I'm surprised that with the amount of playoff experience that Tatum has had, I'm surprised he's not on that Jokic, Giannis, Antetokounmpo stratosphere yet. I don't think he's reached that level yet, and I'm surprised that he hasn't.
Oh, he hasn't, and
He hasn't.
it's all because of consistency.
Yeah, correct. He's hot and cold. He's hot and cold. Like
Yeah.
when he put up that 50-point barrage a couple of weeks ago, he's got to back it up with another 40 and then 30, and you know what I mean. You can't go from 50 and then all of a sudden you're now in the teens. You know what I mean? Like, but I do think I do think if Boston wins this game 6, it's over. It's over.
Listen to this one. Has any team ever come back from a 3-0 deficit in the NBA?
In the
No.
playoffs? I
Yeah.
don't think so, man.
No team in NBA playoff history has ever come all the way back from a 3-0 deficit to win a series, but 3 teams have come close. The 1951 New York Knicks, the 1994 Denver Nuggets, and the 2003 Portland Trail Blazers are the only teams in league history to force a Game 7 after trailing 3-0 in a series.
I remember that Denver Nuggets team. It was against Utah. They were down 3-0 and then made it to Game 7. They were also down 2-0 against Seattle the previous series, and they won 3-2. That's when Mutombo held that ball. I actually thought that Denver was going to win that series against Utah because they came from 0-3, made it 3-3. They had all the momentum because then it would have been Denver versus Houston. For the
what was the year when Phoenix played the Bulls?
93.
Weren't they up 2-0 against the Bulls? Or was it 1-1?
No, it was the Bulls was up 0-2.
The Bulls were up 2-0?
2-0, yeah. They won in Phoenix twice.
And then what did Phoenix come back and win 2 games?
Yeah, 2-1 in Chicago.
They
and
won.
So it was 3-2 in Phoenix.
It was 3-2 in Phoenix, and then Phoenix lost
Game 6.
Game 6.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. Before that was one time where I thought the Bulls were in danger of losing a series.
I agree.
I thought what they had Kevin Johnson.
Oh, excellent player.
They had Dan Marley. They had Tom Chambers.
Yep. Sabalos.
They had Charles Barkley.
Yep.
I thought they had I thought they had and that was the year that Charles Barkley. That was Danny Ainge. That was the year that Charles Barkley won the MVP, right?
Yes, correct.
And they had a monster regular season that year. I actually thought they were going to beat the Bulls that year.
Yeah, I did too because they had their regular season was really good. But the thing is with the Bulls, man, because Jordan, man, like he would always do stuff that would he was that dude like when we're talking about like the Sugar Ray Leonards and the Pacquiao's or even the Floyd Mayweather's, because I don't want to I don't want to feel like I'm a Floyd Mayweather hater. I do think that, by the way, I actually think that had they fought in 2011, I actually thought that Mayweather would have won.
A lot of people think because you're Filipino, you're very biased towards Pacquiao.
No, I am. I do have a slight bias to him because I'll defend him, but if someone asked me, who do you think would have won in 2011 or 2010 when Pacquiao fought Miguel Cotto and he annihilated them, right? And say they fought in May, I always would have thought that Mayweather would have won because he's too quick.
I never thought Pacquiao would ever beat Mayweather.
Because the only way that that Pacquiao could beat Mayweather is if Mayweather fought like killers, like every single time. Like say for example, he didn't retire. Say he fought Hatton, right? So then he retired. Say he didn't retire. Say he fought Miguel Cotto at 147. Then he fought Margarito. Then he fought then he went, say he goes up to 154 and fights Paul Williams, and then he fights Winky Wright. Say he goes back down and fights Pacquiao, and he got damage, and because of the damage that he's fought, yeah, I can see Pacquiao could win that fight, right? Because Floyd Mayweather's damaged goods. In that scenario, yes, because the thing is, Pacquiao, he did that. He fought. He had that gauntlet of fighting 3 Hall of Famers at 130 and 126. Barrera, Morales, Marquez. Not once, 3 times. Like twice Barrera, 3 times Morales, 4 times Marquez. Yeah, the reason why he was more washed up than Mayweather is because, man, that guy went through wars already. Whereas Mayweather, and good for him that he did it, he kind of manufactured his career so that he could be a little bit more fresher. I mean, yeah, at that time, it was good strategy for Floyd. But the thing is, that comes back to bite you when people start talking about legacy, because they're going to bring up those asterisks, right? Whereas with Manny, he doesn't have a lot of asterisks because he did fight. He did do that, he fought everybody at their primes and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean, Bibs? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I got you. The argument can be made. Who do you like tonight? Lee Wood or Mauricio Lara? You've been following that fight?
What the hell? How did Bronco Lara go 4 pounds over the weight limit? What the hell is that all about?
Oh, no, man.
That's not good, dude.
Here's the thing, man. They weighed him a couple days before the fight. I think he was 3 or 4 pounds over, and they wouldn't even allow him to try to make the limit. That was the British Board of Boxing Control saying that it wouldn't be safe for him to attempt to go down to 126. So they wouldn't even allow. They said the lightest we'll let you go down is 128 pounds. So I guess he was 120. I think it was 130-ish. I think it was 130, 129 and a half or something like that.
Why would even Wood accept that fight? Dude, that's too dangerous, man. You're basically fighting a super featherweight. By the way, Beebs, just letting you know, the stat says that Devin Haney rehydrated to 155 on fight night. That's confirmed by ESPN. I don't know what Loma rehydrated to, probably 142, 141. Devin Haney, 155. That's huge, man. The
more and more I think about it, Haney did say that he could stay down at 135 for one or 2 more fights if the money's right. The more and more I think about it, I want to see a rematch.
Nah, I want to see the Tank Davis fight. Because that's a huge money fight for Haney, because Haney deserves a huge money fight. He's the B-side to that fight. But man, that fight will do another million. And if that fight does $1 million, right? Tank Davis is the face of boxing because it's back-to-back 1 million pay-per-view buys. He's the face of, he's the money, he's the cash cow of boxing. If he does another $1 million back-to-back.
What Canelo really needs to do next?
Fight Benavidez.
He's got to fight Benavidez next, in my opinion. If he fights Bivol next, it's a great fight.
That won't sell.
I don't think it'll sell though.
No.
I don't think anybody cares about it. Imagine if Showtime, right? Think about this: Davis Garcia, Benavidez Plant, Spence Crawford, Canelo Benavidez.
Well, if he goes there,
then if they have some type of involvement with Wilder Joshua, maybe just say, for instance, they say they carry the American broadcast. That's by far the best year in boxing, out of all the that's a monster schedule, right? Who can fuck with that schedule?
Hey Beebs, did you hear about Tyson Fury sending a contract to AJ? 95 purse split in favor of Fury. Sign it now, or else you're not going to get this opportunity again.
I'm a super duper huge Tyson Fury fan. Another guy that I like a lot. I don't love him like I love Leonard, but a guy who I like a lot. If this fight in December with Usyk does not happen, I'm going to take my 2 Tyson Fury shirts that I have in the closet right now, and I'm going to start using them as chamois to fucking clean my car because I'm going to be done. I'm going to be done. Those shirts are going to become chamois. I'm going to have to turn my back on him after that. If he doesn't fight Usyk at the end of this year, I'm going to have to turn my back on him.
Man, who washes their cars on their front yard these days? Usually you just go to the where you pay $1. And
I don't wash my car myself. I go to the car wash, but I'm just trying to use an example.
I remember I used to do that too, Beebs.
You love to nitpick, but I'm just trying to make
no, because I remember
for the sake of entertainment value, I just wanted to say that. That's all.
Yeah, because Beebs, I used to wash my car too, like before the those super car wash where you can just do it yourself before they were built. Yeah, with the chamois. Yeah, I remember. Like
I will use those 2 Tyson Fury shirts to wipe my dishes dry.
But Beebs, apparently, Eddie Hearn is looking at that contract, and you never know. It might be legitimate.
Here's what's making me a little worried about that whole 2-fight deal, the 4-man tournament. Here's what's worrying me.
Oh, Saudi.
The Saudi deal. If you're telling me that AJ is going to fight in August, Fury's looking to fight in August, right? Let me just say this. Isn't that too close?
Yeah, it is.
If too close of a turnaround to fight in August and then go ahead and fight in December, that's what's worrying me.
4 months.
Is this whole? I mean, I'm hoping the whole Saudi thing happens. I'm trying to stop being a negative Nelly when it comes to these fights. So I'm rooting for these fights to happen, but I'm starting to become more and more skeptical when I hear of, oh, well, we're going to fight this guy in August, that guy, and then, so you got August, right? So they get August, September, October, November. So you're going to have a 4-month turnaround and fight in December in the biggest fight of your career?
Because in the 90s, that was normal. 4 months that was pretty long. That's pretty long in the 90s.
Yeah.
Even in
then
2000.
we're gonna have Usyk versus Daniel Dubois. He's fighting, like, all these guys are fighting in August, and then they're supposed to have the quick turnaround in December. You know what I mean? It's like, why not?
Because I don't mind the fights being in Saudi Arabia because they're paying a premium. So, dude, if Las Vegas, if you MGM Grand, if you guys want to bid for it, then go ahead, go in there.
Well, here's the thing, Little Penny. Those UK fights can be in Saudi because of the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
They could be in Saudi because the UK and Saudi, I think they're like a 2-hour difference. But certain fights that we have over here, like Spence Crawford, you'd have a hard time putting that fight in Saudi because it wouldn't be in prime time over here for us. Yeah. So a lot of those fights that involve UK fighters, right? You could do them in Saudi, right? Because you'll get a huge pay-per-view buy rate in the UK and in other parts of the world, right? But if you have two like Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia, it doesn't do 1.2, 1.4 million pay-per-view buys, in my opinion, in America, if it's being fought in Saudi in a different time zone out of prime time. Now, I could be wrong.
Bibbs, if Rolly Romero and Ryan Garcia, if they fight at 140 for his belt, right? Say it does 600, 700 pay-per-views.
800,000.
Ryan Garcia is a seller, if that's the case.
If Ryan fights Rolly Romero, in my opinion, 800,000 pay-per-view buys.
That sells.
800,000.
It's a promoter's dream because they're gonna go at it. It'll be like De La Hoya Mayorga. Remember that build up to that fight? Like where they were just going at it. Well, De La Hoya was more quiet, but those antics Man, the All Access will be hilarious. Everyone will be watching it. I know I would.
Yeah. I would love that fight.
Who do you like in that fight, Beebs? Rolly, Ryan.
I think Rolly gets destroyed.
Yeah, same. I feel like Ryan Garcia might be going in that same path as Victor Ortiz, where he's found out now, but he can still win a world title. Like remember VO won a world title against Berto, and then he fought Floyd. I knew that. I already knew that VO was done when he fought Maidana, because he quit and he was found out. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we found out who you really are. Same thing with Ryan.
You never forgave him for that.
The Maidana fight?
No, you never. Yeah, you never forgave him for that. A lot of fans never.
Man, nah. He should have went on his shield, and it affected him because he also quit against Josecito Lopez. He quit against Mayweather as well. Really, if you think about it, he wanted an out. So he headbutted him, and then he kind of like invited him to sucker punch him in it per se. You know what I mean? Like, I think that VO, like, he destroyed his own career in that Maidana fight. Same thing that is going to happen to Ryan Garcia. Same thing with also Amir Khan when he fought against.
You don't think Ryan Garcia can rebuild his reputation and rebound from this? You think once you decide to do what he did in that fight, that you can never recover from that?
Yeah, but not only that there's a blueprint to beat Ryan Garcia, he doesn't have the heart. When you go on, when they are about to touch gloves and his opponents look at you in the eye, they're gonna look at him as like, nah, man, dude, you got no heart, dude. So I'm just gonna like, you know what? That confidence is already there. Like, you know what I mean?
You don't believe in second chances, Little Penny?
No, I do, but not in boxing, dude. Not in boxing. In boxing, you get found out quick, easy. Because I remember there was this quote with, I think Muhammad Ali said it. He said, if you get tired in boxing, that's the last place you want to be. Because the other guy's going to kill you. There's no timeout. It's not like in the NBA where you can call a timeout. Dude, you have to go back out there.
You can spit out your mouthpiece. Get a break.
Yeah, it's good. Tyson actually tried to do that against Buster Douglas. Remember, he just spat it out, and he got the long count.
Jose Luis Castillo, Chico Corrales kept spitting out the mouthpiece in that fight.
Oh yeah, I do remember. That was at Mandalay. By the way, why isn't there more fights at Mandalay Bay? I haven't been to that Mandalay arena, although I have been at that hotel. I hear it's the best place for boxing.
I'm gonna give you my opinion, and I'm a little biased here. Again, I've been to the Mandalay Bay, but I've never actually watched a fight there.
Same.
For me, that MGM Grand Garden Arena is a beautiful place to watch a fight. There's not a bad seat in the house there. I actually love that place. That's my favorite place to watch a fight.
Yeah,
I think that arena is so comfortable. The seats are comfortable. Yeah. There's no blind spots. Beautiful.
Yeah, there is no blind spots at all. Bibbs, I was there in 2012 when Canelo fought Mayweather, right? I was up on the third tier, so and the nosebleeds, right? We actually saw, I was sitting next to this guy, and we were trying to, we had a competition on who can guess the most celebrities coming out of the tunnel, because you can clearly see them, right? So there was heaps of, like, Denzel was coming in, Magic Johnson was coming in, and people were like, because they were on the Jumbotron, right? And people would cheer. Beebs, I'm not lying, right? When Paris Hilton and Nikki Hilton came out of the tunnel, Beebs, the crowd went wild, right? And everyone had their phones. And back then, 2012, it wasn't really that famous to put your phone up, but Beebs, everyone did that. Now, when someone like Denzel, they didn't do that to Denzel. They didn't do that when Magic Johnson came in. Who else was there? I think Wesley Snipes was there too. Like, but Beebs, like, because this was during Paris's her peak. Man, I had never seen that, Beebs. Everyone in the stadium was standing up, just curious on what these two are going to do. It was amazing. I will never forget that, Beebs. Never.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So you like Mauricio Lara tonight?
Yeah, I don't. Sometimes I don't get. Like, I remember Magsayo, he missed weight, right? And he got he got beaten against what's his name? I can't remember his name. That guy from Figueroa. Yeah. But this one, it's a big weight. Is there a rehydration clause though? Like, he can't rehydrate to a certain because he missed.
No, this is a W. This is I don't believe so unless the British Board of Boxing Control steps in. I'm not sure if they stepped in or not, but WBA doesn't have a rehydration clause. Only the IBF does.
Man, Mauricio Lara's got an advantage. He's got a 4-weight advantage already at the weigh-in. He'll probably have a 10 to 15 pound weight advantage now if there's no rehydration clause. And you'd have to go with Lara. He's got the bigger man, and he's the more powerful puncher.
So did you? I got Lara. Did you forgive Roberto Duran for the no mas?
First of all, Duran beat your boy Sugar Ray Leonard in the first fight, so it's a different situation. Duran was already regarded as the best lightweight to have ever lived.
Making excuses now. I don't like the double standards. Doing it now.
Hey, Philly's doing it.
Philly, can Ryan Garcia bounce back from that Tank fight, or will that moment where some people thought he opted not to continue, will that carry over into his next fights? Will that be something that he has to carry around with him for the rest of his career, in your opinion?
Tell you the truth, he's not committed enough to have a productive career in boxing. Like, you'll see in his photos and his videos now that he's going to be committed because he's with Derek James, but wait till after a fight or two and everything. He'll get back to his regular self. It's like he needs a guy that's going to tell him, yo, you are going to be here or you're getting out of here, like the Reynoso did. And until that, and the thing about it is, it happened, but he didn't learn nothing from it. So this fight that plainly he did quit. I don't care what anybody says. He quit.
Yeah, he quit.
And he's going to be known as a guy that can't bounce back in fights. Yeah. Once people feel like he's beaten, the fight's over.
Yeah, correct. Mentally.
So Little Penny is going to put him into the Victor Ortiz category. Is that what you're going to do too as well, Philly, or no?
As of right now, yeah, but Victor Ortiz was still, I think Victor Ortiz is better than Ryan Garcia. You might have to put him in his own category.
Oh, wow.
Because here's the thing. Victor Ortiz was committed for a long period of time to boxing until he got seriously hurt. Like, the classic fights with Andre Berto and everything. Until that Jose Canseco Lopez fight, when a guy came up from 140 and just broke his jaw and everything, the small guy broke his jaw and he quit.
Yeah.
He was known.
Jose Canseco Lopez. So there was two situations where Victor Ortiz could not continue and people were
it was 3. The Mayweather one too.
Mayweather one, he got sucker punched.
Are you gonna throw the Mayweather one in there too, Philly Drill? Like Little Penny is? Little Penny's putting that in there as well.
Nah, because Mayweather sucker punch him. That was a sucker punch.
Yeah. But he invited
Little Penny's tough, man. I'd hate to work for Little Penny, man. If I screw up one time, man, I'm getting fired, bro.
Nah, man, I'm a forgiving guy.
All I got to do is screw up one time. Guess what? I'm on the unemployment line, bro.
Yeah, he's got MOB on his thing, man, of business.
Yeah.
Yeah, that always comes up. I don't know why that
What's
comes
MOB
up.
stand for, Little Penny? What's that?
I don't have a clue.
Oh, is that what H money? Is that H money hashtag? MOP?
No, it always comes up like every time. Like I don't know how to change that. Like I don't even know what that means. Well, Maestro says it's him. Maestro.
Oh, is it?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know what that comes up.
Is that what that is?
And he's got these teachers on the other side, Beebs.
Teachers talk. You like the teachers talk?
Yeah, it's okay.
Be careful now. Be careful now. Be careful. You like the teachers talk?
I do like his Beebs. I do like his new audio though, where he says checkmate, checkmate. I do. It's hilarious, man.
That's hilarious.
By the way, Beebs, you rap at the start. I like the rap.
Like the rap?
Yeah, you wrote that. You wrote that.
Here's the issue. When we were on there last time, I asked him a question. If Tank fights Rolly, will he come back on and say it's a cherry pick? He went around that question 5 times. I was like, dude, I asked you a question. It's a yes or no question. And
ask me that question.
All right. If Tank goes and fights Rolly instead of fighting these other guys, do you consider it a cherry pick?
That would be a very strategic fight for Tank, and a fight where I believe he'd win easily. Yes.
It's a Mayweather move.
Yeah, I don't like to use the word cherry pick because I don't like to insult fighters, but I'm gonna say, yeah, that is a strategic fight in which Tank believes that he would win with very little chance of losing.
Hey, Philly, I bet.
So yeah, Philly Drew, I think you'd be fair in saying that, yes.
Hey, Drew, I bet you there's no rehydration or catch weight in that Rolly fight at 140.
No, there won't be.
They can't.
Do you know Mario Barrios said there was a rehydration clause in their fight?
Oh, really?
Yeah, he did say that.
Didn't he say that, Philly?
He did say that after the Ryan Garcia fight happened. He did say like a week later.
He did.
Tank had a rehydration clause in my fight too.
That's what
See,
he
this
said.
is what I don't like about I like Tank. I'm a fan of his because he goes for the kill. He reminds me a little bit of Pacquiao, but man, he leaves too many asterisks to his path to glory. Take those asterisks away, and then we will respect you fully. But let me ask both of you guys this: if you're Team Davis, don't you jump on this Devin Haney fight right now? Oh yeah, I would.
And
why would you not? Go ahead, Drew.
I'll tell you why right now. You watched the Lomachenko fight. I thought he clearly won the fight. No secret to that. Lomachenko was able to make Devin Haney fight a fight he did not want to fight against Lomachenko. And Lomachenko did take away his best weapon, his jab. Lomachenko was able to get inside and you can see with great footwork and great boxing, you can beat Devin Haney and make Devin Haney one-dimensional in a fight. That whole fight, Devin Haney was one-dimensional. He kept him fighting small, not fighting tall. It was the wrong game plan. And now, if Tank goes in there, or we see a Loma rematch, I really think Devin would try to switch up and try to fight tall again, and Devin would get caught because he's too flat-footed as a tall fighter. Yeah. And a guy with footwork could be able to take advantage of that because a guy that's not flat-footed all the time will be quicker to react to certain situations in a boxing fight than a guy that's flat-footed.
Yeah. Also, Drew, Lomachenko is not renowned as a big hitter at 135, obviously, because he's not a lightweight fighter.
It's not a huge
right, and he was still able to snap Devin Haney's head back multiple times. In fact, probably like 6-7 times, whereas he couldn't do that to Lomachenko when he would hit him flush, right? Which means that Devin Haney doesn't have a lot of power at 135, and he's a little chinny at 135. That's a perfect menu offer for Tank Davis.
Perfect recipe right there.
Yeah.
Devin Haney doesn't have power, period.
Yeah, if Tank fights Devin, I'm gonna have to pick Tank by knockout in that fight.
Same. But Biebs, if Haney pulls it off and wins against Tank, oh man, he's like
That's a monster win for him if he could pull that one
Yeah,
off.
that's first ballot Hall of Famer like resume right there. Like,
So here's $1 million question for both of you. Haney fights Tank, and say Tank doesn't get the knockout. Can Tank win by decision? Can he outbox Devin?
Yes.
Okay.
Like,
So do you see a scenario where Tank hurts Devin on multiple occasions? Maybe maybe Haney goes into survival mode and kind of holds his way to a
clinch.
decisive decision loss. Could you see that? Is that how you could see? Is that how you could see Tank winning a decision victory by Haney being able to hold on?
yes, but I think if it goes into that survival mode, I don't think Haney's gonna last because
Yeah.
because Haney's gonna eventually get caught again. Because like that's not the Lenore's fight. He got that punch. Haney held for like a round and a half, not get wounded or he didn't really have no offense at all in a round and a half. The next round and a half of that fight, and Lenore's is not really hasn't been that good of a finisher lately, and everything. I think Tank is a better finisher, so
Oh, yeah.
he'll go for the body. But he goes for like when he has him, hurt and everything, and he's holding, he'll go for that body. And Haney's gonna have to do one, pick your poison, defend your body, or defend your upper body, defend your head. One of them's he's gonna knock you out somewhere because you're really hurt.
Yeah. I'm
Man,
gonna be honest, man. If as a fan, I would love that Loma rematch. I think it would be a great fight. But I could see Tank looking at this fight and salivating right now, and I could see Devin Haney looking at Tank fight and saying, "Damn, this is a lot of money I could be
oh
making."
yeah. Bibbs,
So
I hear that the Lomachenko Devin Haney fight only did 200,000.
yeah, I don't know.
150.
I don't know. I don't know
150.
exactly. I don't know exactly what it did.
That's
I
a
don't
failure.
know. Yeah, I mean,
Because
it's not
usually
great.
these hardcore boxing fans, there's enough. There's maybe 300,000, maybe that you could muster.
You would think that it would do at least 250,
Oh
300.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Devin now is trying to be the villain and everything. He
Yeah.
could have been the villain this whole build-up, but he actually made a huge mistake in this build-up to this fight. Now he wants to be the villain and everything, and
Yeah, it
now
looks fake.
people see that now. Oh, this is an act now. He's trying to get
Yeah.
more views and everything. See, he's gonna get another pay-per-view fight. Like, I don't think this Loma rematch, if it happens, is gonna be on pay-per-view again. Like, it was a good boxing card, but it's not gonna be on pay-per-view, Ken, because people aren't really sold on Devin Haney, really as a pay-per-view star, because Devin Haney could be boring at times. That fight wasn't boring because Loma made him fight a different style and everything, but it's definitely not because people will look for, hey, the rematch. They're probably not gonna give Loma a decision still. They're gonna look at it like that, or Loma may lose clearly on the cards. But like,
Drew, I think because Haney doesn't have a lot of time left at 135, he'll probably jump to that Tank Davis fight so he can get a big payday, and then he'll move up to 140 because at least he'll have one huge payday. Because there's no huge payday for him at 140.
well, here's the issue: there's too many obstacles for a Tank fight to happen. I don't think it happens. There's too many obstacles for it to happen. They're not going to agree on money. They're not gonna agree on who's the A side.
Oh,
Haney's gonna think he's the A side, and Tank's gonna think he's the A side. And Tank's gonna say, "Hey, I'm the pay-per-view. I'm the guy that starts pay-per-views here. You don't. I have all the belts. You don't." But at the end of the day, we look at it like this. There's just too many obstacles for this fight to happen, and Haney doesn't have a lot of time left to figure out whether he can make 135 again or not. So he has three options at 135. He has a Lomachenko rematch with the people do want to see because there's a lot of controversy in that fight. There's a Tank Davis fight where people want to see Tank finally fight a name, fight a legit threat to him. Not Ryan Garcia, someone that got the followers on Instagram and everything, someone that's a legitimate threat and Tank fights for undisputed, or Shakur Stevenson, the guy that is now the number 2 guy on sectioning bodies because Loma got his number 1 spot back and is now considered the mandatory for Devin Haney.
Yeah, Drew Beebs, I've seen enough lightweight fights on HBO where they show, what weight you're at on weight day and then what you are on fight night. Usually lightweights rehydrate maximum 150, usually around 148, 149. Now for Devin Haney to rehydrate to 155, that tells me his body is saying, I'm going up to 140. Mentally, he might say, okay, maybe I'll go one more fight at 135. His body is saying, let's go up to 140 because we can't make 135 anymore.
This is why they had one of the stipulations why they pushed their A side to have the weight at 9 a.m. so they could start a rehydration. And even I wasn't approved of it. I hated the idea of a 9 a.m. weigh-in time and everything, but it gave him time to rehydrate. He went up to 155 during that span and everything. And he still wasn't really that much of a bigger guy because he kept getting pushed back all night by the smaller guy. So now this is one reason why he has a clear disadvantage going up to 140 against these much bigger guys and everything. No power's going up there with him. He's not going to be able to keep these bigger fighters off him. And these guys are killers. These top guys could possibly really knock him out and hurt him bad.
The crazy thing is this. Devin's 24 years old. And even myself, part of me saying, well, will he get bigger and stronger at 140? Or when we look at situations like other fighters that moved up, like Amir Khan moved up from 130 to 140, and he still got knocked out by Danny Garcia, right?
Yeah.
Now he became, he didn't get knocked out at 147, but then he got knocked out again by Canelo. So, and then even when you look at Tommy Hearns' career, he got knocked out by Ray Leonard at 147. Then he moves up, and he gets knocked out by Hagler. He gets knocked out by Barkley. So I'm kind of torn here. I'm trying to give Devin the benefit of the doubt, but I'm saying to myself, even if he does move up, he's going to be in there with bigger, stronger guys that are going to probably be possibly the same size, if not bigger than him. I just want to see him get hit by a 140-pounder. I want to see if he reacts well to it. If he becomes stronger and more durable at the higher weight. Because with me, that's a question mark, and I'm kind of on the fence about it. I'm kind of on the fence about it.
He got hit by Linares and he got hit by Loma, and Loma's not even a 135-pounder, and it wobbled him to the point where Loma was supposed to stop him in the 12th round, right? And these 140, these guys are huge, mate. Like they hit differently. Like Chris Algieri even said it on Pro Boxer, said when he moved from 140 to 147, big difference. It's like because he was okay at 140 when he fought Provodnikov, who was a huge puncher at 140. But when he moved up to 147, his coach said completely different. Like the punches hurt like 3 times as much.
Much different because he got stopped by Errol Spence. He was getting knocked down several times against Manny Pacquiao. He got stopped by Conor Benn. So yeah, he wasn't taking the punches as well at 147 as he was it. And he was a big 140-pounder too. This guy was like close to, he was like 5'10", 5'11" too. Like so that's the jury is still out on Devin if his durability isn't the greatest because he's having a hard time making weight, and then is that weakening him? I'm just curious. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, but I stress there is that word doubt in there as to whether he'll take
But
the
Beats,
punches
I
or
don't
not.
think it's like a Canelo. Remember when Canelo fought at 147 and he fought Miguel Cotto's brother and he almost got stopped, right? Because he was weight draining himself. Then when he went to 154, he got really felt comfortable in that weight and then he grew to become a great fighter. I don't think it's that, Beebs. I don't think it's that situation for Haney.
Nando, shout out to Nando. He makes a great point, and this is this is something that I've considered as well too. He said all these dudes smooth diminishing Devin. Remember, reminiscent of Canelo's career. That's what happens when you beat a boxing meteor and hipster darling. Now, I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but it's almost like when Canelo was 24 and Mayweather beats him. And this was a guy that was already a champion. He was a unified champion, right? And everyone says, oh, he's only 24. He can still get better. He can still improve when he gets more experience. And I kind of apply this to Devin a little bit. Like, he's only 24. He can still improve. He can still get better. But then the counter argument to that is, okay, well, yeah, even though Canelo showed vulnerability, he was never really hurt.
No, he wasn't. I was at that fight. He wasn't hurt.
Like Devin was hurt
Yeah.
in Linares and in this fight. So again, I find myself still wanting to give Devin the benefit of the doubt, still giving him the opportunity to show that, hey, maybe I can get better as I get older. I haven't peaked. And maybe when I do fill out, I will become more durable and I will become more resistant to these punches. Because just like Nando said, like they were saying the same thing about Canelo at 24 when Canelo had some close calls and actually lost to Mayweather in the one fight. So Canelo was able to kind of recreate himself, rebuild himself after that with years of experience. Can Devin do the same thing? It's quite possible he can.
Bibbs, if Haney fights Tank next, and say Tank knocks him out, I'm not going to hold it against Haney because I'm actually going to give him credit for taking the big fights back to back to back to back to back. Like, you know, I'm not going to totally count him out like I am to like Ryan Garcia, because Devin Haney, he fought.
I mean, you're basically retiring Ryan Garcia. You're worse than Robbie right now.
There's only one chance that Devin Haney can get better from this. Get another trainer in his camp, and your dad becomes your second. Because
well, they've done that before, Drew. They've done that before. You know, they've had his dad take the back seat on occasion before.
He needs to take the back seat permanently because his dad's game planning is really suspect. It's been suspect and everything. I think they need to get a trainer in there that can focus on building more power at him and him becoming more of a better boxer and not being a one-dimensional fighter that he normally is.
Remember, this is Bibbs can probably answer this question. You know, Tyson Fury before he fought the Wilder rematch, he was regarded as like a pillar puncher himself. Like he wasn't really like, we didn't see him as a big puncher. It was
people like me who always knew that this guy was the best of all time. We knew that he had this power in him.
Here's the thing. He went to Sugar Hill Stewart. The Croc Center is more about offensive output. Is more about trying to end the fights and knocking people out. They focus on Tyson. They focus on making him more of an offensive fighter and everything. And you see the live result. He gets knockouts now because of it. Because they make him become more of an offensive fighter instead of a defensive fighter. Because before he went to Sugar Hill Stewart, he was more of a jabbing, flowing machine.
Yeah.
That will get you with numerous jabs, try to use his height, use his jab, occasionally for a hook at you, and that's it. But now he's more of a jab. He jabs you, but he sets those big punches up with the jab and starts railing on you.
Or maybe Devin Haney needs a Memo Heredio in his corner so he can improve his punching power.
So let's just speak hypothetically here. Little Penny, you're Devin Haney's manager. Drew, you're his advisor. What do you guys advise him to do next?
Tank Davis, so I can get paid. I can get my 10% commission. And then Devin Haney can get paid.
I'm making him take the Tank fight for the payday, or I'm making him take the Loma fight to to get his image back, because he don't take this Loma rematch, his image is somewhat diminished a little bit. Or I'm moving him up to 140.
I don't know. So he won though.
People, again, there's still a large. People are starting to come around a little bit, and they're saying, they're changing their mind a little bit, but the majority of people still think he lost the fight. It's just
I thought Loma won.
You had Loma winning.
He won.
Yeah,
it's like this. Floyd Mayweather had a couple fights that people thought he lost. I thought he lost the first Castillo fight, and he gave rematches to Castillo, Madonna. Only other one I thought that he lost was the De La Hoya fight, and that never got a rematch and everything. But
hey, Drew, De La Hoya had a rematch clause for that fight.
Yeah, he did. He did have a rematch clause, but
Floyd he wanted that rematch, but Floyd wanted to retire.
Yeah, Floyd wanted to retire, and then he came back like a year later, I guess.
I don't know why he didn't want that rematch, because he won that fight. Like, I do think that Floyd won that fight.
Here's the issue with that. Oscar was able to be the bigger man in that fight and cause problems for Floyd in that whole fight. And he didn't want to go through that again, because Floyd was actually a natural 147-pounder at that time. And he moved to 154 to face De La Hoya. He didn't want to fight at 154 again. So he wanted to move down because the fight was a rematch clause at 154. He didn't want to fight 154 again.
Yeah.
So,
but Drew, I do remember that fight with Floyd. With Floyd and Oscar, they were fighting with 10-ounce gloves at that time, not 8-ounce gloves, and that was because I don't know why De La Hoya chose that. But that was. But really, if you're wearing 10-ounce gloves instead of 8, that actually goes into Floyd's favor, because now Oscar, he can't hurt him as much.
But here's the issue: it went 10-ounce because Floyd has an issue of holding his hands.
Shout out to D-Style Boxing. He says no heavyweight is feather-fisted puncher.
True.
These guys are 220 plus.
Kevin Johnson is.
Yeah.
Feather-fisted?
The Kingpin? Kevin Johnson.
I guess obviously some guys are heavier hitters than others, but this is a division where it's believed that one punch can turn a fight. These guys are big, strong guys.
Yeah, I do remember in that first Wilder fight, because Freddie Roach was in that. Freddie Roach was in Fury's corner, and he actually told Fury, "Hey, dude, you should use your power instead of like running around in the ring like."
Yeah, push this guy back.
Sorry.
He said push this guy back. I remember that. You're right.
Yeah, like he had a big weight advantage on him. Wilder doesn't really come in no more like 220. And Fury's like almost 270 in that fight. So use your weight, push the dude back and start being the bigger man in that fight. That's what clearly won him all 3 of those fights. I thought he won all 3 of those fights. But
Drew, Joe, I actually thought that in that first fight, I do remember predicting Wilder to knock out Fury. That was my prediction. I thought he was going to knock him out.
I predicted Fury to win that fight. I predicted Fury all 3 fights because here's the thing. Wilder, I thought before the Fury fight, the first Fury fight was exposed. That's why I thought he was. I thought he was exposed. Here's the thing. When the Povetkin fight was first made with Wilder, that Wilder was going to defend his WBC title in Moscow against Alexander Povetkin, I picked Alexander Povetkin to win by knockout, because I think Wilder would be exposed, and it was too soon for Wilder to fight a guy like Povetkin. Thank God for Wilder. He tested positive the night of the fight, and Wilder left Moscow, and Povetkin fought a nobody.
But Drew, just to be fair, like that first fight with Fury, it was a draw, and he knocked him down twice. So. You only have to find 2 more swing rounds, and it's still a draw. Like, you know what I mean?
Little Penny, I had Tyson Fury winning 10 of those 12 rounds. The only rounds I gave him that I gave Wilder was the 2 knockdown rounds. Tyson Fury was boxing his ass off for 10 of those 12 rounds. It was clearly a Tyson Fury fight.
Yeah, I actually think I gave Wilder 3 rounds in that fight. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's a Tyson Fury win. But I thought that in that last round when he knocked him down, like when he caught him with the left hook and then a right cross, I thought he wasn't gonna stand back up. I thought he was gonna stay down. And in fact, Wilder actually thought that too. Remember, he was playing with the crowd and saying, "Hey, he's down now." Yeah. And then when he got back up, he actually tried to knock out Wilder. I was thinking, wow. It was reminiscent of that AJ versus Vladimir Klitschko fight when AJ knocked him down, and then at the end of that round, it was actually Vlad that was winning the round. Remember that?
Yeah. It was interesting, man.
Now, Charlie Finkel, if I was Charlie Finkel at that time after that fight, I would have never went for the rematch with Fury, because once you saw Fury get up from that knockout punch, you should have seen it. He ain't ever knocking this boy out. He ain't ever hurting this dude really seriously, and he's not gonna win a fight with Fury.
Hey Drew, looking back, I reckon, man, Wilder should have fought AJ and gotten that 3-fight deal for 120 million for the zone, because he would have beaten AJ. Based on what we know now, he would have beaten AJ. He would have knocked him out twice.
He probably could have, but here's the thing. Why do I think now beats AJ? Because he has the experience now. Back then, it was more of a 50-50 fight. Slightly, you could have put it in AJ's favor, but now Wilder has that experience with fighting Fury 3 times and has a new trainer now and everything with Malik Scott. He's established himself with Malik Scott as a trainer now and everything. I will give it a 55-45 favor to Wilder now to win my knockout, because AJ really isn't the AJ back in the day anymore. That killer is gone. And people are going to get mad at me, but that killer is gone.
Yeah, I reckon it's even more than 55. I reckon it's more like 80-20 to me. AJ, he's gone, man. He's not there anymore. He doesn't have the animal instincts anymore. Maybe it's because he's got too much money in the bank account. Who knows, man? But yeah, he's not. That Andy Ruiz fight, that ruined him badly. Like, he hasn't recovered from that at all. Even before that, really, with the Vlad fight, because after he fought Vlad, I think he fought Parker, and he was so shy in that fight. And then the next fight he fought Ruiz, he lost. So, like, I don't know, like,
I didn't even think he won the Parker fight.
Sorry?
I didn't even think he won the Parker fight. I thought Joseph Parker
that was
beat
the
him.
first fight. I thought AJ just pulled it off, but he was really gun shy in that fight.
I thought he looked bad in the Pulev fight for a little bit. There was parts in that fight he looked bad, and Pulev's a one-handed fighter, and he was getting AJ.
Because Drew, with that Vlad fight, I've always thought that after that fight, I thought, okay, we're gonna get, this is our Mike Tyson, or this is our Muhammad Ali fighter, because now the torch has been passed, and it was such an exciting fight. He came back after that knockdown. It was in front of 100,000 people. This is like the passing of the torch type of a fight. Like, Vlad, I'm not handing you the torch. Now you're the face of boxing now. And he was supposed to improve from that fight because he came back. He beat a great fighter. In fact, looking back, it was the other way around. He regressed. You're not supposed to regress after that. After a victory like that, you're supposed to get better and better.
Here's the thing. I used to compare AJ to Vladimir Klitschko a little bit because they were like robots fighting and everything. And during the Klitschko era, it was a really, I'm sorry, it was a really bad era because there was really nobody that could step to the Klitschko's. The closest person that could step to the Klitschko's at that time was David Hay, a guy that moved up from cruiserweight and everything. And the only other two champions in that division at the time before the Klitschko's got the 4 belts were Sarton and Bragimov and Nikolai Vereri, a 7-foot Russian that had no business fighting a top tier fighter because he wasn't really that good of a boxer at the end of the day because David had exposed him and everything. It was really born era because how Vladimir fought, he became a jab hold guy. Vitaly was the guy that would really knock you out and wear you down at the end of the day. And AJ wouldn't beat those two in their prime. AJ will get annihilated by a prime Klitschko and a prime Vladimir and a prime Vitaly Klitschko.
I agree with
I
that.
even think a prime David Hay will beat Anthony Joshua. If you look at it, Anthony Joshua is a guy that has a bad gas tank. He's a guy that's transmission is going during the fight. And you got to pray to God that transmission doesn't go during that fight now. Because AJ banked on knocking people out. Now that people could take his power, you're seeing AJ diminish and his skills diminish during the fight. And this is why now it may be the best time to take a Tyson Fury fight, which was reported that they're in talks again for cash out and get your share of the zone because you already got a share of the zone and become a businessman because you fighting Tyson Fury, you're cashing out, you're ready to get knocked out and be put out of your misery. Take you in the back of the barn like all yellow and just put the shotgun to him.
Whoa! Wow.
Hey Joe, I do think that AJ still has a power, right? He just doesn't want to throw it with conviction anymore because he's too scared that what's coming back to him. I think it's there. I just don't think he wants to do it. Like, you know what I mean? Like for example, you see like a good-looking girl in a nightclub.
Whoa.
Like you want to you want to kiss her, but you can't. Like, I don't want to do it.
Is this
before anymore? Like, you know
is
what I
this
mean?
before you get drunk at the nightclub or after you get drunk at the nightclub?
Definitely before, because you have conscious. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, but I do think that he still has it. He's just that he doesn't want to throw it. He doesn't want to pull the trigger because
What is this? A
he
therapy?
doesn't have the confidence anymore.
Is this a therapy session or what? What is this?
I don't know what the fuck this is. He's putting out simulations like fucking crazy.
What are we doing? We projecting here a little bit?
Like, my man, I'm going to be honest with you. Me being at a nightclub with AJ ain't going to work out, man, because girls will be over AJ, but in the morning, AJ be drunk as shit, realize he just screwed an ugly-ass girl that was a 3 on his Richter scale.
Hey, there's a rumor out there about AJ. I don't want to say it, but man, there's a rumor out there about AJ. So
you might as well say it now, little Penny. You already started it. You might as well say it now. Come on.
He's under suspicion. That's
I'll protect you from the fangirls and the fanboys of AJ. I got you.
AJ's got a lot of British fans out there, and I am in a lot of I go into a lot of British live streams, so I don't want to like ruin my already ruined reputation.
When you're gonna come on the round table, little Penny?
I can't do it because when you guys have it, I'm at work and I can't spare like 2-3 hours because I have to work.
You should call in sick one day and just come on.
No, it's called sick. Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, but the thing is, then what if someone I can get fired for that, man, because then someone will say, "Oh, by the way, he's not sick. He's out there with the ring."
You got diarrhea, or you can't make. You have to miss the bathroom. Just went to the bathroom during the round table a couple times.
That's hilarious. That'd be hilarious. That would be crazy. Say he calls in sick. He's on the round table,
yeah.
and then his
5 seconds.
Then his boss sees him on the round table and he gets fired.
It's an immediate fire too.
Immediate termination.
Yeah, no 3 warning rules. You know, there's 3 warnings.
I caught out of work and I went on a show before, and I was like this. Hey, Drew, I saw the show. Yeah, I did. I actually had the cramps. I had to go take a bathroom break a couple of times because I had that diarrhea.
That's hilarious. Now, but Drew, we just going back to AJ. How can these guys? How can Ryan Garcia and AJ, are they fixable or they're not fixable?
AJ's too old to fix now, man. He's out of there. Come on, though, Penny. Ryan's too stupid and too not committed to the sport to be fixed. I don't care too much for him. Thank God he lost the fight. Thank God he got knocked out. Thank God he quit, because Cleveland was right about him the whole time and everything. So I don't really give 2 shits about them both. Yeah, I'm a good
maybe Beast, maybe they need, what's his name? Your guy, the fireman. What's his name? Teddy Atlas.
You seriously call him my man, Teddy Atlas? You think I would get someone that gives you're the fireman. You got
we're firemen. We run through fire.
You think I'm that crazy to run through fire? That's suicide talk right there. That's you being like high on a whole bag of Coke.
Ryan might be crazy to do it.
It's crazy.
Well, he got crazy people in the road. You know, I see a lot of them every day when I'm around Philly and everything. So yeah.
Crazy. All right, guys. Well, it's almost been 3 hours here, man. I think I'm gonna wrap it up and catch up with you guys later, man. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks,
All right,
Drew.
man. See you later, guys.
See ya.